Chapter 126. In the middle of the battlefield, Fu Qin Sheng and the Scarlet Flame Python were engaged in an intense battle. The sound of the zither rang out, and invisible sound waves swept across the battlefield. Unlike the light-stream zither, which was a pure spiritual type martial soul, Fu Qin Sheng's martial soul had a very strong attack power. However, the Scarlet Flame Python was a genuine thousand-year soul beast. Although the sound waves were able to injure it, it was unable to do much damage. Clang! The sound of the zither rang out as Fu Qin Sheng dodged the Scarlet Flame Python's attack and plucked the zither in his hands again. Invisible sound waves appeared in front of him, and they covered the sky as they attacked the Scarlet Flame Python. The Scarlet Flame Python wasn't slow, but its 4-meter-long body was still its weak point. In a moment, the sound waves left several wounds on its body, and fresh blood continued to seep out. After suffering such a heavy blow, the Scarlet Flame Python let out a mournful roar. Its bloody mouth was filled with scorching hot flames as it pounced towards Fu Qin Sheng. This speed was rather fast, and Fu Qin Sheng hurriedly dodging the pounce of the Scarlet Flame Python. As his body turned to the side, he was hit by the sweeping tail of the Scarlet Flame Python. Fu Qin Sheng hurriedly tried to block the attack, but the Scarlet Python was a thousand-year soul beast, and Fu Qin Sheng wasn't an assault-type soul master with a tyrannical physique. After being hit by the Scarlet Python, Fu Qin Sheng was forced back 10 steps before he could stabilize himself. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. Between a man and a beast, they were actually evenly matched. Fu Qin Sheng's eyes revealed a trace of seriousness. He didn't think that his moment of carelessness would cause him to be ambushed by the Scarlet Flame Python. However, he wasn't afraid. He still had a trump card in his hand, and it was more than enough to kill the Scarlet Flame Python. However, once he used it, he would have no ability to protect himself. In this forest where danger lurked everywhere, it could be said to be very dangerous. His eyes were filled with hesitation. He didn't know if he should use it. Suddenly, a burst of golden light attracted Fu Qin Sheng's attention. A black and gold spear came out of nowhere, and it actually sent the Scarlet Flame Python's enormous body flying. A figure appeared. It was a man dressed in white with a golden mask on his face. His height was similar to his, but what surprised him was that he had seen this person before. Just outside the ruins, he could still feel this person's gaze sizing him up. If he hadn't cultivated his spiritual energy, he probably wouldn't have been able to detect this person's spying. This person's spiritual energy was truly the strongest among the younger generation that Qin Sheng had ever seen. Originally, Fu Qin Sheng had thought that this person was like him, someone who specialized in spiritual power. But just now, this person had sent the Scarlet Flame Python flying with a single attack. It was very clear that this was a technique that only an assault-type soul master could use. However, for an assault-type soul master to possess such strong spiritual power, even Qin Sheng felt that this guy in front of her was a little scary. Lu Yuan had no time to care about Fu Qin Sheng, who was behind him. With the shocking world spear in his hand, he stared at the Scarlet Flame Python. The Scarlet Python was a genuine thousand-year soul beast with a cultivation of 1,500 years. For a soul exalt like Fu Qin Sheng to be able to fight against the Scarlet Python was a testament to how much of a genius she was. After all, not everyone was like Lu Yuan and had cheats. However, although the Scarlet Flame Python was strong, it wasn't much of a threat to Lu Yuan. Moreover, it had already been injured quite badly by Fu Qin Sheng. Calm wind and calm waves. Lu Yuan swept the spear in his hand, and in an instant, it seemed to carry the sound of a surging ocean. This was a move from the vast ocean spear art. The Scarlet Flame Python spat out raging flames, but they were fiercely scattered by Lu Yuan's spear technique. The shocking world spear pierced out, and an enormous power pervaded the air, causing the Scarlet Flame Python's attack to seem somewhat sluggish. Spear Force. This was the realm of Spear Force. Lu Yuan had bitterly cultivated for many years, and finally stepped into the realm of Spear Force when he was 8 years old. Now, he had already walked a certain path in Spear Force, and he had even comprehended the vast ocean force from the vast ocean spear art. When his spear pierced out, it carried the aura of a surging ocean. Before the spear arrived, it had already suppressed the opponent's fighting strength by a few degrees. And the scarlet flame python in front of him was the first soul beast to face Spear Force. Of course, it wouldn't be the last. The so-called calm wind and calm waves meant that all the enemy's attacks would vanish like smoke and vanish in a thin air under a single spear. This spear could be said to be extremely powerful under the support of the Golden Dragon's bloodline. "Chi!" Lu Yuan shouted softly, and the spear burst forth with a wisp of golden light, and its speed was unbelievably fast. "Puchi!" The spear slashed across the snake's body, taking away a large piece of flesh, and blood spurted out from the wound. The scarlet flame python screamed miserably, and its huge snake body kept rolling on the ground. "Die!" Lu Yuan's Golden Dragon's bloodline suddenly burst forth, and the aura of a supreme beast pervaded the air, and the scarlet flame python was instantly greatly suppressed. In terms of bloodline purity, in the current Douluo continent, except for the Silver Dragon King, there was almost no one with a purer bloodline than Lu Yuan. Under the might of the Golden Dragon, even the dragon race would crawl on the ground, let alone a snake that was originally a dragon race, but was far inferior to the dragon race. Under this aura, the scarlet flame python couldn't move at all. Stab! The world-shaking spear directly pierced through the scarlet flame python's head. Under a single spear, the 1,000-year-soul beast, scarlet flame python, was dead. Lu Yuan calmly withdrew the world-shaking spear. In these days, many 1,000-year-soul beasts had died at his hands, and one more scarlet flame python wouldn't be able to move him. Behind Lu Yuan, Fu Qinsheng's eyes had a trace of shock. He killed a 1,000-year-soul beast, scarlet flame python, in 2 moves, and it seemed like he didn't even use his martial soul. Was he even human? He suspected that even if he used all his strength and used his trump cards, he might not be able to threaten the man in front of him. In fact, Fu Qinsheng had misunderstood. Lu Yuan's fighting strength was naturally strong, but Lu Yuan's Golden Dragon's bloodline also gave him an advantage when dealing with soul beasts. With the Golden Dragon's bloodline, almost all soul beasts would be suppressed innately when facing Lu Yuan, and they wouldn't be able to use their full strength. In addition, Lu Yuan was already very strong, so it wasn't strange for him to have such results. If he were to fight against a soul master, especially one with a tool soul, the Golden Dragon's bloodline wouldn't have much of an effect. For example, Fu Qinsheng's martial soul. If he were to fight against Fu Qinsheng, Lu Yuan would have to use his full strength. The Golden Dragon's aura would naturally be present, but it wouldn't be able to truly suppress Fu Qinsheng. This was because he had a tool, martial soul. But if it was a soul master with a beast martial soul, of course, he would still be suppressed, especially if it was a soul master with a dragon martial soul. If he met Lu Yuan, it could be said that he was courting death. The suppression from the Golden Dragon would let him know what cruelty was. Withdrawing the world-shaking spear, Lu Yuan turned around, and the 2 youths, who were both dressed in white, met again. Lu Yuan raised his eyebrows and looked at Fu Qinsheng, who was standing not far away, with interest. Chapter 127. Thank you for your help, brother. Fu Qinsheng cupped his hands. As the young master of the Zither faction, he had always been very considerate in terms of etiquette. Moreover, the young man in front of him had indeed helped him. If it wasn't for this young man, he might have had to use his trump card against the 1,000-year-old Scarlet Python. Once he used his trump card, he would definitely be weakened for a period of time. At that time, he would have been unable to move an inch in this dangerous forest. Therefore, Lu Yuan's appearance had indeed solved quite a big problem for him. No problem, it was nothing. I am Lu Yuan. May I know your name? Lu Yuan asked as he withdrew his spear. Lu Yuan. Fu Qinsheng was stunned. He seemed to have never heard of this name in the circle of the Xianra Empire. However, based on the strength that Lu Yuan had just displayed, He could imagine that his background was definitely extraordinary. So it's Brother Lu. I am Fu Qinsheng of the Zither faction, Fu Qinsheng said. Although he didn't know why Lu Yuan was wearing a mask, Lu Yuan had helped him in the end. He probably didn't have any ill intentions, so he didn't hide his identity. Moreover, almost everyone in the Xianra Empire knew him. Fu Qinsheng felt that there was no need for him to hide his identity. However, Lu Yuan's background was definitely very mysterious. Perhaps he wasn't from the Star Luo Empire, or perhaps he came from some hidden power. That was why he wore a mask to hide his identity. Of course, Fu Qinsheng wouldn't have a bad impression of Lu Yuan because of this. After all, he might have his reasons. At the very least, the aura that Lu Yuan exuded made Fu Qinsheng have a good impression of him. He had never seen such an extraordinary aura from anyone before. So it's Brother Fu. Greetings. Lu Yuan had a good impression of Fu Qinsheng. Moreover, Fu Qinsheng's manner of dealing with people was indeed extraordinary. The two of them had met for the first time, and they hit it off quite well. At this moment, seeing that Lu Yuan had dealt with the scarlet python, Zhu Zhuqing, who had been waiting at the side, walked over. Oh, this is the second young miss of the Zhu family, Zhu Zhuqing? Fu Qinsheng recognized Zhu Zhuqing. After all, the two of them had met once, and the relationship between the Zhu family and the Zither faction wasn't very harmonious. Of course, that was between the two families. There was some friction between Fu Qinsheng and Zhu Zhuyun, but it was fine with Zhu Zhuqing. However, wasn't Zhu Zhuqing and Dai Zhuqing? Why was she together with this man named Lu? Zhuqing, Qinsheng's Zhuqing, Zhuqing, Zhuqing of Zhuqing, Zhuqing's Zhuqing, Zhuqing, and Zhuqing's. Zhuqing of the Zhuqing of the Zhuqing of the Zhuqing of. Two, of course, of Zhuqing of the Zhuqing, Zhuqing. S impression of the Xianra Empire and the Zhu family wasn't very good. Zhu Zhuqing had left Ai Mu Bai and followed another man, but Zhu Qinsheng's heart didn't waver at all. He even wanted to laugh a little. Zhu Zhuqing, the second daughter of the Zhu family, was different from Zhu Zhuyan. She was kind-hearted and didn't like power like Zhu Zhuyan. She liked to bully others and didn't consider the relationship between the two families. Zhuqing? S impression of Zhu Zhuqing was quite good. Although this girl was cold, she was indeed a good girl. Her appearance and figure were excellent. She was a good match for Brother Lu Yuan in front of him. Although he hadn't seen Lu Yuan's face before, for someone with such an immortal-like temperament, his face was definitely top-notch. Of this, Fu Qinsheng dared to pat his chest and guarantee. And hello, Zhu Zhuqing nodded at Fu Qinsheng and stood beside Lu Yuan without saying a word. She wasn't the kind of person who was good with words. Towards strangers, she had always been blunt, other than when she was in front of Lu Yuan, where she would speak a few words. She preferred to be alone and silent. I'm sorry, Brother Fu. Zhuqing's personality is a little cold. Lu Yuan smiled faintly and said to Fu Qinsheng, It's fine. Miss Zhu's personality is genuine. I've heard a lot about her. Fu Qinsheng said, Where do you want to go, Brother Fu? Why don't we go together? Lu Yuan asked with a smile. Thank you for your kind intentions, Brother Lu. However, Brother Lu and Miss Zhu's feelings are sincere. I don't want to disturb Brother Lu's two-person world. We should go our separate ways. However, Brother Lu's help today will be engraved in Fu Qinsheng's heart. I will definitely repay you in the future. Fu Qinsheng said, If that's the case, then I won't force Brother Fu. However, I have something I would like to ask Brother Fu. Lu Yuan said, Brother Lu, if you have something to ask, feel free to ask. Fu Qinsheng said, It's like this. Zhuqing has already reached rank 20 and just so happens to need a soul ring. Unfortunately, Zhuqing and I have been searching for several days, but we haven't found a suitable one. I wonder if Brother Fu has found any suitable 100-year soul beasts along the way? Lu Yuan asked. About this, Fu Qinsheng pondered for a moment and said, I did find something. Just this morning, when I was passing through the forest, I found a 700-year netherworld purple spirit cat. However, I didn't disturb it and took a detour. It's only been less than half a day, so I think it should still be in that area. A 700-year netherworld purple spirit cat? Lu Yuan was overjoyed. The netherworld purple spirit cat was a genuine top-notch soul beast. With a cultivation of 700 years, it was definitely not weaker than the 1,500-year-old scarlet flame python. It might even be a little stronger. As Zhu Zhuqing's second soul ring, it couldn't be any more suitable. Brother Fu, please point out the specific direction. Lu Yuan cupped his fists and said, Brother Lu is too polite. It should be in that direction, about 7 to 8 miles away. Fu Qinsheng pointed in a direction and said, Many thanks, Brother Fu. Lu Yuan said, You're too kind. Compared to Brother Lu's help, this is just a small matter. However, Brother Lu must be careful. The netherworld purple spirit cat's attack power is quite strong, and it moves like a ghost. It is very difficult to deal with. Fu Qinsheng reminded, Many thanks for Brother Fu's reminder. I am very happy to have met a friend like you. However, Zhuqing's soul ring is more important. I have to go first. Lu Yuan's tone carried a trace of apology. Brother Lu, please go ahead. We'll meet again someday. We'll meet again someday. The two of them cupped their fists, and then Lu Yuan brought Zhu Zhuqing in the direction that Fu Qinsheng had pointed. The netherworld purple spirit cat was a top-notch soul beast that could only be found by chance. It was extremely suitable for Zhu Zhuqing. Therefore, he absolutely could not let it go. Why don't you chat with Fu Qinsheng for a while? I see that you seem to have some plans related to him. My soul ring will be obtained sooner or later. There's no need to rush. Zhu Zhuqing asked from beside Lu Yuan. Although she also wanted a soul ring that was suitable for her, Lu Yuan clearly had some big plans in his heart. For Lu Yuan, she was willing to make a little sacrifice. Chapter 128. Silly girl, what are you talking about? Lu Yuan glared at Zhu Zhuqing and said, No matter how big the matter is, it's still a small matter compared to you. Do you know how rare a netherworld purple spiritual cat is? If you miss out on this soul ring because you chatted for a minute longer, you might not be able to find a better one in the future. For your future development, what's a mere scheme? You have to remember, as long as it's related to you, it's a big matter no matter how small it is. If it's unrelated to you, it's still a small matter no matter how big it is. Lu Yuan looked at Zhu Zhuqing and said in a serious tone. Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing's body trembled. She stopped and looked at Lu Yuan, her beautiful eyes sparkling. She was moved by Lu Yuan's words. Is what you said true? Zhu Zhuqing asked with a trembling voice. Of course. Lu Yuan nodded and said, Perhaps I want to achieve something that no one before me has achieved. This can be considered my ambition. But to me, the people by my side are the most important. They are far more important than my ambition. This time, Lu Yuan was revealing his true intentions. He indeed wanted to do something earth-shattering. For example, he wanted to end the decadent rule of the Douluo continent, abolish slavery, and liberate the commoners. These were all goals that had just arisen in his heart. But compared to his lover, all these things had to take a back seat. The ancients said that one had to cultivate one's body, rule the country, and pacify the world. One had to first cultivate one's body, then rule the family, and finally pacify the world. Another person said that if one doesn't sweep a house, how can one sweep the world? To Lu Yuan, only when the people by his side were happy and stable would he be interested in realizing his ambitions and goals. If he couldn't even take care of his loved ones and family, how could he talk about liberating the commoners of the Douluo continent? Wasn't this nonsense? To Lu Yuan, his family and loved ones were always his first priority. From this point of view, Lu Yuan actually admired Tang Hao. Although Lu Yuan didn't like his image as a sex slave, he was willing to fight against the three great Douluo of the martial soul palace for his woman. Lu Yuan still admired his love for his woman. If it were Lu Yuan, he would also do the same thing as Tang Hao. Perhaps the opposing sides wouldn't change, but this wouldn't affect a man's admiration for another man. Tang Hao is indeed a man. At least, Tang Hao was much stronger than a master. At least, he was responsible for his woman. A man can tease a woman at the very least, he must be responsible after teasing her. Running away was never something a man should do. For example, Lu Yuan himself. Either he didn't tease them. As long as he teased a girl, he would take responsibility. From Chihiro Snow to Hu Lina to Zhu Zhuqing, Lu Yuan would take responsibility. To Lu Yuan, their matters were much more important than Lu Yuan's own ambitions. Zhu Zhuqing was moved. She took a step forward and held Lu Yuan's hand. Lu Yuan laughed and hugged Zhu Zhuqing in his arms. He kissed her gently on the forehead. With a light tap of his feet, his figure instantly flew out. His posture was ethereal and elegant. It was the phoenix dance of the six illusions. Lu Yuan's phoenix dance of the six illusions was extremely fast. With Zhu Zhuqing in his arms, his speed was much faster than before. Following the direction pointed by Fu Qinsheng, Lu Yuan quickly moved forward. Another 7 days passed. It had to be said that this forest was indeed very vast. After another 7 days, Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing finally traversed the entire forest. When he saw the vast plains, Lu Yuan's heart was filled with excitement. From start to finish, they had trekked through the forest for almost 20 days. Every day, when he opened his eyes, he would see the forest. Even with Lu Yuan's mentality, he was somewhat unable to bear it. Fortunately, he and Zhu Zhuqing had finally walked out of that damned forest. Speaking of Zhu Zhuqing, her soul power had already reached rank 23. It could be said that her improvement was considerable. The Netherworld Purple Spirit Cat was indeed very suitable for Zhu Zhuqing. Not only did it allow Zhu Zhuqing's soul power to increase by 2 ranks, it also gave Zhu Zhuqing a powerful offensive soul skill. Netherworld Soul Breaking Claw. This skill had an extremely strong attack power. It also had a chance of breaking through armor. With a single claw, blood would splatter everywhere. It could be said that the current Zhu Zhuqing was much stronger than when she was at the same rank in the original work. In the original work, Zhu Zhuqing's second soul skill was the Netherworld 100 Claws. It could be said that she could claw continuously for 100 times. However, its attack power was only SOSO. It was basically useless against soul masters with stronger defenses. In the original work, Zhu Zhuqing was an agility-type soul master. Her speed was indeed fast, but she lacked attack power. It was true that agility-type soul masters were fast, but they also needed sufficient attack power to be able to injure their enemies. If their attack power was insufficient to injure their enemies, then what was the use of being fast? Then they would not be called an agility-type soul master, but a pure agility-type soul master. What was an agility-type soul master? One was agility, and the other was attack. Speed and attack power were indispensable. After Zhu Zhuqing absorbed the Netherworld Purple Spirit Cat's soul ring, not only was her speed faster than in the original work, but the Netherworld Soul Breaking Claw could definitely tear apart the defense of a defense-type soul master of the same rank. It could be said that its power was enormous. Although it consumed a little more soul power, the flaws could not obscure the beauty. With regards to Zhu Zhuqing's soul skill, Lu Yuan was still quite satisfied. As for Lu Yuan himself, his soul power naturally did not increase much. Currently, he was still at rank 29. After all, he did not absorb a soul ring like Zhu Zhuqing. However, in terms of strength, there was still some improvement. After all, his use of bloodline and understanding of spear power were increasing day by day. Lu Yuan held Zhu Zhuqing's hand as they walked on the boundless plains. He was quite carefree in his heart. This kind of boundless plains made people feel very comfortable. Zhu Zhuqing's face also had a trace of smile. Perhaps because her soul power had reached rank 23, the gap between her and Lu Yuan had narrowed. In the future battles, she would also be able to help. Therefore, during this period of time, Zhu Zhuqing's face always had a smile on it. Zhu Zhuqing's abnormal behavior made Lu Yuan somewhat flabbergasted. However, he was still somewhat happy in his heart. After all, smiling was always better than having an ice-cold face. After lighting a bonfire, Lu Yuan held 2 large white fish in his hands. These were the fish that he had caught in a small stream in the plains. The size was not small, and the quality of the meat was also not bad. It was just right to eat meat. Of course, Lu Yuan was still in charge of the barbecue. After all, Zhu Zhuqing was the dignified second miss of the Zhu family. Her 10 fingers did not do any household chores, and she had never done such things before. Zhu Zhuqing gently leaned her head on Lu Yuan's shoulder. Her originally cold, big eyes were filled with gentleness. Looking at the large white fish in Lu Yuan's hands, there was a trace of expectation in her eyes. Her martial soul was the netherworld's civet, and cats love to eat fish. Chapter 129. Zhu Zhuqing had learned about Lu Yuan's culinary skills over the past few days, and she was very impressed. Among the many dishes that Lu Yuan made, she had a special liking for grilled fish. Both were fish, but she was much more interested in grilled fish than fish soup. The aroma of the grilled fish constantly stimulated her taste buds. However, she was a shy person. Although her eyes were full of anticipation, she would not show it. However, Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing had been together for so long, and they ate together every day. How could he not know Zhu Zhuqing's preferences? He did not need to look to know that the people around him must be secretly swallowing their saliva. The 2 large white fish were grilled until they were golden and translucent. After sprinkling the special seasoning, the aroma assailed the nostrils. Just the aroma alone was enough to whet one's appetite. Zhu Zhuqing's eyes also lit up. After estimating the time, Lu Yuan took the grilled fish and handed the larger one to Zhu Zhuqing. Zhuqing here. Zhu Zhuqing took the grilled fish and sniffed it carefully. The corners of her mouth curled up slightly. Then, she opened her cherry mouth and gently took a bite. As soon as the golden fish entered her mouth, Zhu Zhuqing's big eyes narrowed, and she looked like she was enjoying it. Seeing this, Lu Yuan's face revealed a trace of a smile. It was only at this time that Zhu Zhuqing looked like a little girl of her age. The rest of the time, she was really mature to the point that it made one's heart ache. Looking at Zhu Zhuqing eating in small bites, Lu Yuan could not help but feel a trace of satisfaction. The days that the two of them got along with each other were really not bad. However, his side was not bad. He did not know how Senior Sister was doing. Senior Sister, are you okay? Lu Yuan's eyes could not help but look into the distance. At this time, on the other side of the plains, Hulina's pink eyes exuded a unique charm. The 2 snow-white fox ears on her head stood up, and there was a snow-white tail behind her. Coupled with her pretty and charming face, she was really a peerless beauty. Hulina's sword pierced the throat of a young man. Blood splattered everywhere, and the young man's corpse disappeared without a trace. This was already the 3rd time. Ever since she'd entered the plains, she'd been harassed by many young soul cultivators due to her beauty. Some of them even harbored ill intentions and wanted to do things that went too far. But Hulina didn't hesitate to send people like that to hell. But what was puzzling was that every time she killed someone, the corpse would turn into light spots and disappear on the spot. This made Hulina feel a little shocked. This place was really strange. At this time, she couldn't help but think of Lu Yuan's guest before entering the ruins. The people who died in the ruins would be resurrected outside of the ruins. Perhaps these people would really be resurrected outside of the ruins like what Junior Brother said. However, this was letting them off too easily. Hulina felt indignant. Putting away the short sword in her hand, Hulina couldn't help but look into the distance. She hadn't seen Junior Brother for more than 20 days. She really missed him. I wonder how Junior Brother is doing right now. Hulina murmured softly, and then the corner of her mouth curled up slightly. I think with Junior Brother's ability, no one should be able to do anything to him. Junior Brother, Senior Sister really misses you. Hulina took out a female golden mask from her necklace soul tool and put on her face. These days, she finally knew why Junior Brother had to wear a mask. On one hand, it was to keep it a secret. On the other hand, whether it was her or Lu Yuan, they were too handsome and could easily cause disputes. Although she wore a mask, her figure was still alluring and her temperament was still unique. However, it was still effective. Hulina looked into the distance deeply and then retracted her gaze. Junior Brother, are you also thinking of Senior Sister? She murmured softly, and then walked forward again. She knew that as long as she kept moving forward, her junior brother would definitely be waiting for her at the end. This was the confidence she had in her junior brother. She believed in him more than she believed in herself. He was an incomparably convincing man. Lu Yuan retracted his gaze. He didn't know why, but he seemed to feel that Hulina was looking at him. He seemed to see Hulina's face, which was filled with longing across layers of space. The longing for Hulina in his heart was growing stronger and stronger. What's wrong? Why are you in a daze? The grilled fish is getting cold. Zhu Zhuqing's cold voice sounded while Lu Yuan was deep in thought. Lu Yuan turned and smiled at Zhu Zhuqing. He passed the grilled fish in his hand to Zhu Zhuqing and said, "You eat it. I don't have an appetite." "What's wrong with you? Did something happen?" Zhu Zhuqing's eyes were a little doubtful. Her red lips moved slightly, and there was a trace of concern in her voice. "Nothing. I'm just a little worried about senior sister." Lu Yuan gently tucked Zhu Zhuqing's hair behind her ear and said softly, "Oh." Zhu Zhuqing lowered her head. After a while, she raised it again and stared at Lu Yuan. "Can you tell me about her?" Hearing this, Lu Yuan was stunned. Then, he nodded and told Zhu Zhuqing about him and Hulina. Since he already had an agreement with Zhu Zhuqing, he wouldn't hide anything about his feelings from Zhu Zhuqing, not even the slightest bit. Zhu Zhuqing listened seriously, and the expression on her face changed from time to time. When Lu Yuan finished, Zhu Zhuqing looked at Lu Yuan with a trace of bitterness in her expression. However, there was no jealousy. "It seems that your senior sister loves you very much," Zhu Zhuqing said faintly. "Yes." Lu Yuan nodded. He was very sure that among Chihiro Snow, Hulina, and Zhu Zhuqing, Hulina's feelings for him were the deepest. He was very sure that if there was a yearning, heartbroken grass, Hulina would definitely be able to pluck it. This was something that Zhu Zhuqing and Chihiro Snow couldn't do at the moment. He knew that Zhu Zhuqing loved him now. However, they had only known each other for a short period of time, and it wasn't to that extent yet. As for Chihiro Snow, he had feelings for him. However, it was obvious that the current Lu Yuan wasn't as important as the martial soul palace or Sendoryu in Chihiro Snow's heart. Lu Yuan was well aware of this. However, he had no choice. Who asked him to fall in love with Chihiro Snow at first sight? Even now, the person he loved the most in his heart was still Chihiro Snow. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Zhu Zhuqing's expression changed. Finally, she sighed faintly. Then, she stared at Lu Yuan. "Then can you tell me who that little Snow is?" There was a trace of murderous intent in her tone. Her cold eyes had a trace of wildness in them. When Lu Yuan was talking about Hulina just now, he had mentioned Chihiro Snow's name. However, Zhu Zhuqing was very sharp. She immediately realized that Chihiro Snow seemed to have some special meaning to Lu Yuan. She couldn't help but feel even more annoyed. Although she minded the matter between Lu Yuan and Hulina, she accepted it. After all, she came later. However, now there was Chihiro Snow. Could it be that Lu Yuan wanted to have a foot in 3 boats? Zhu Zhuqing stared coldly at Lu Yuan. Her gaze was as sharp as a knife. Lu Yuan opened his mouth and was about to say something. At this moment, the entire plain shook. In the center of the distant plain, a huge temple rose from the ground. Sacred light spread over the entire plain. Chapter 130. That temple was clearly far away in the middle of the plains, and it didn't seem too big, but everyone could clearly see its full appearance. Even though they were very far away, they could still feel the enormous pressure and holy aura contained within the temple. Was this the power of a god? Indeed, it was in a completely different dimension from a titled Douluo. Lu Yuan had seen many titled Douluo, and perhaps no one on the continent could compare to him. However, whether it was Sendoryu, BB Dawn, or the Golden Crocodile, they all lacked the supreme aura that seemed to be above the Douluo continent. Furthermore, they were far from the enormous pressure that looked down on all life. This was no longer the level of a human, but an even higher realm, the realm of a god. Lu Yuan was slightly dazed, and he retracted his gaze. Although this power was strong, it was still not enough to make him absent-minded. He had felt an aura that was much stronger than this before, and that thing was still in his martial soul space. But he didn't dare to release it, because once he released it, the first unlucky person would be himself. Sometimes, the power of a weapon was too strong, so strong that the owner couldn't control it. This was a good thing. However, Lu Yuan had no choice. Who asked the other party to be the boss? Lu Yuan regained his senses, but Zhu Zhuqing was still in a daze. This was probably the first time the little girl had felt such a powerful aura. It was understandable that she was momentarily distracted. He patted Zhu Zhuqing's shoulder, and she finally regained her senses. Lu Yuan, that is. Zhu Zhuqing's eyes were still filled with shock as she pointed at the temple not far away. That should be the real ruins. If I'm not wrong, the person who left behind these ruins should be a god-rank powerhouse. At this point, Lu Yuan felt that it was time to tell Zhu Zhuqing some things so that she could be prepared in advance. God-rank powerhouse, are there really gods in this world? Zhu Zhuqing looked at Lu Yuan with a trace of shock on her pretty face. The things she knew today seemed to have exceeded her understanding. Yes, rank 90 is the title Douluo, and rank 100 is the realm of gods. So it can be called becoming a god at rank 100. Lu Yuan smiled. Becoming a god at rank 100? Zhu Zhuqing blinked her big eyes, and a sense of yearning arose in her heart. As someone who was obsessed with strength, Zhu Zhuqing couldn't help but yearn for it now that she knew there was a new realm. It's hard to become a god at level 100, but we can't lose hope. After all, if others can become a god, there's no reason why we can't. I, Lu Yuan, have only one goal in life, and that is to become a god. I will definitely become a god. Lu Yuan looked at Zhu Zhuqing and declared solemnly. His tone was calm, but full of unparalleled confidence. He really believed he could become a goddess. Zhu Zhuqing could clearly feel this from Lu Yuan's words. While other people's goal was to work hard to become a titled Douluo, Lu Yuan's gaze had already been set on the highest goal of becoming a god. Zhu Zhuqing's eyes were full of splendor. This was the man she had chosen. He was indeed different from others. Zhu Zhuqing couldn't help but be shocked by Lu Yuan's words. If someone else had said this, she would have thought that person was arrogant, but Lu Yuan said it so matter-of-factly. In fact, this was the case. Lu Yuan's only goal was to become a god, and not just an ordinary god. He wasn't interested in gods below the God King level, including the Master Gods. If he wanted to become a god, he had to achieve the highest, at least the God King level. He didn't want to be judged by others after he became a god with great difficulty. Lu Yuan, who had the golden dragon and the god-slaying spear martial souls, was very confident in this, not to mention that he had a system that could help him cheat at any time. He had never doubted this. Lu Yuan spoke very heroically, and Zhu Zhuqing was very pleased that Lu Yuan had such a lofty goal. She was secretly happy. However, Zhu Zhuqing suddenly seemed to have thought of something, and her eyes became sharp again. Lu Yuan suddenly felt his scalp go numb. Speaking of which, don't you want to be honest with me about that Chihiro Snow? Zhu Zhuqing said with a smile, and a rare smile appeared on her cold face. However, Lu Yuan felt a chill run down his spine, and his confidence instantly disappeared without a trace. Zhuqing, I think I have something to say. On a vast and boundless plain, Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing were hurrying on their way. The sudden appearance of the temple and such a huge commotion would definitely attract the attention of all the cultivators in the ruins. At the same time, Lu Yuan was sure that Hulina would definitely go there. When the time came, people would gather together, and it would be a little dangerous. Lu Yuan had to meet up with Hulina as soon as possible. Zhuqing, it's too slow to run like this. Get on my back, and I'll carry you. It'll be faster this way, Lu Yuan said to Zhu Zhuqing. Zhu Zhuqing glanced at Lu Yuan and then calmly retracted her gaze. This guy, I haven't forgiven him, and he still wants to take advantage of me. She didn't know why she was angry. She was clearly the last one, but when she thought of Lu Yuan having a foot in 3 boats, Zhu Zhuqing felt a little irritated and unhappy. To be honest, in the Douluo continent, it was not uncommon to have 3 wives and 4 concubines. Even her father, other than her mother, had several concubines. Not to mention the current star, Luo Emperor. Other than the Empress, he had 3 palaces and 6 courtyards, and countless concubines and beauties. Originally, Zhu Zhuqing thought that she should be able to accept this. After all, her original fiancé was Dai Mubai. If Dai Mubai ascended the throne, he would definitely have many wives and concubines in the future. Even if she didn't want to accept this, she couldn't. After all, every emperor was like this. However, when it came to Lu Yuan, she couldn't accept it. Speaking of which, 3 wasn't a lot, and it was within Zhu Zhuqing's psychological bottom line. However, she was still angry. Perhaps other than jealousy in her heart, she was also worried that Lu Yuan would find more in the future. Perhaps this was what Zhu Zhuqing cared about the most. Because with every additional person, the love that Lu Yuan gave her would decrease a little. This was the reason why Zhu Zhuqing was angry. Seeing that Zhu Zhuqing ignored him, Lu Yuan directly grabbed Zhu Zhuqing's jade-like hand and pulled Zhu Zhuqing into his embrace. There was no other way. If she didn't listen to him nicely, he could only use force. Being pulled into Lu Yuan's embrace, Zhu Zhuqing cried out in surprise and couldn't help but struggle. However, how strong was Lu Yuan? He held Zhu Zhuqing firmly in his embrace, and no matter how hard she struggled, it was useless. Zhu Zhuqing struggled for a while, then stopped. Like a docile kitten, she was held in Lu Yuan's embrace without moving. Her small head gently leaned on Lu Yuan's chest. Seeing this, Lu Yuan smiled slightly. Sure enough, Zhu Zhuqing fell for this trick. It was better to be a little more domineering when dealing with Zhu Zhuqing. Chapter 131. Zhu Zhuqing was like a wild kitten. She was usually docile, but when she lost her temper, she would bare her fangs and brandish her claws. At this time, it was useless to speak nicely to her. Only by conquering her forcefully and overbearingly could this wild kitten become docile again. That was what Lu Yuan did. Lu Yuan stroked Zhu Zhuqing's soft hair and said softly, "Zhuqing, don't be angry. If you have anything to say, just say it. As long as I can change, I will change." Zhu Zhuqing raised her head and looked at Lu Yuan. "If I asked you to give up Chihiro Snow, would you do it?" "No." Lu Yuan's answer was decisive and firm. "Xiao Shui is the person I love the most in my life. To me, she is more important than anything else." Looking into Zhu Zhuqing's eyes, Lu Yuan answered firmly. Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing trembled. She heard Lu Yuan's words very clearly, and she couldn't help but feel a little sad. Chihiro Snow was the person he loved the most. Then, whether it was Ulina or her, they were not as good as Chihiro Snow in Lu Yuan's heart. For some reason, Zhu Zhuqing suddenly wanted to cry. Since they were not as important as Chihiro Snow, then if one day Chihiro Snow asked Lu Yuan to give up on her, would Lu Yuan do it? Thinking of this, Zhu Zhuqing's heart couldn't help but turn cold. For the first time, she hated the man in front of her for being so frank. No matter what it was, as long as she wanted to know, this man would not hide anything from her. Originally, Zhu Zhuqing was very happy because there were almost no secrets between them. But now, Zhu Zhuqing was very annoyed. This man said that he loved another woman the most in front of her, which made Zhu Zhuqing feel very uncomfortable. She felt like her heart was being squeezed, and it was very uncomfortable. Zhu Zhuqing's eyes flashed with tears as she raised her doubts. "No." Lu Yuan wiped the tears from the corner of Zhu Zhuqing's eyes and said, "The 3 of you, whether it is you, senior sister, or Xiao Shui, I will not give up any of you. You are all mine." "Scumbag." Zhu Zhuqing gently hammered Lu Yuan's chest with her jade-like hands, but she felt relieved in her heart. As long as Lu Yuan didn't give up on her, then even if she received less love, Zhu Zhuqing would grit her teeth and accept it. Lu Yuan did not comment on Zhu Zhuqing's words of scumbag. If he could take and share, senior sister, and Zhu Qing just by being called a scumbag, Then he would invite them even more fiercely. What was a mere scumbag comment to Lu Yuan, whose skin was thicker than a city wall? Furthermore, in the Douluo continent, polygamy was practiced. Marrying 3 wives didn't seem to make him a scumbag. What was a scumbag? If you don't take responsibility after flirting, then you're a real scumbag. At most, he was a bit of a playboy. But now, there were already 3 of them. It seemed that the degree of unfaithfulness was about the same. Lu Yuan thought to himself, "Then I'll forget about Chihiro Snow, but you have to promise me that you won't mess with other girls in the future." Zhu Zhuqing said. "Of course." Lu Yuan hurriedly promised. "Actually, I really don't mess with girls. Other than little Snow, I really haven't chased any girls. Senior sister, and your situation is a bit special. I promise that unless there are some irresistible factors, I will only have the 3 of you in my life." Irresistible factors? What do you mean? Zhu Zhuqing's gaze was unkind. Cough, cough. The so-called irresistible factors are things that can't be controlled by human strength. For example, I saw you naked, that it belongs to the irresistible factors. Lu Yuan said. "You're still talking about it?" Zhu Zhuqing's pretty face was red, and she pinched Lu Yuan fiercely, but she didn't say anything against it. In fact, she and Lu Yuan also belonged to the irresistible factors. Originally, Lu Yuan and her were considered polite. She slept in a tent, and Lu Yuan would rather sleep outside than share a tent with her. From this, it could be seen that Lu Yuan's character was absolutely trustworthy. After all, although Zhu Zhuqing was not narcissistic, she knew that her appearance and temperament were first class, not to mention that she had matured earlier. In terms of her figure, even compared to a 13 or 14-year-old girl, she was full of advantages. Lu Yuan could look straight ahead, which was enough to prove that his self-control was very strong. Later, Lu Yuan accepted her because he would see her naked body if he wanted to treat her injuries. At this time, as a man, he had to be responsible. After all, the Douluo continent was still a somewhat conservative society, just like ancient China, where etiquette was still relatively strict. At least, Zhu Zhuqing's education was like this. But if he didn't treat her injuries, Zhu Zhuqing would die. After weighing the 2, Lu Yuan made this decision. It could be said that this was actually also an irresistible factor, so Zhu Zhuqing could actually understand Lu Yuan's words. But understanding was one thing. Zhu Zhuqing didn't want to have another sister. I don't care. Anyway, you can't find another sister in the future. Zhu Zhuqing didn't know what to say, so she simply used a girl's exclusive skill, being unreasonable and pestering endlessly. But Lu Yuan really didn't have any good way to deal with Zhu Zhuqing's move. Okay. I promise you, okay? Lu Yuan was a little helpless. This Zhu Zhuqing was really difficult to deal with. When she was docile, she was really docile, but when it came to stirring up trouble, she was also good at it. Lu Yuan suddenly missed Hulina a little. Senior sister is still the best, obedient. Basically, whatever Lu Yuan wanted to do, Hulina never stopped him. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, Zhu Zhuqing instantly turned from a little wild cat to a docile little kitten. She leaned in Lu Yuan's arms, allowing Lu Yuan to play with her hair. Needless to say, she was very obedient. The corner of Lu Yuan's mouth twitched. After being with him for so long, Zhu Zhuqing even knew how to throw a tantrum. "Sigh, where's my original cold Zhuqing? Where did she go?" Lu Yuan sighed deeply, let go of Zhu Zhuqing, and pointed to his back. Zhu Zhuqing wasn't shy. She came to Lu Yuan, lightly jumped onto Lu Yuan's quilt, and hugged Lu Yuan's neck with both hands. Lu Yuan held Zhu Zhuqing's long legs with both hands, feeling the wonderful touch. He focused his mind, stepped on the Phoenix Dance 6 illusions, and moved forward quickly. Zhu Zhuqing's charming face was pressed against Lu Yuan's back. Lu Yuan's broad back gave Zhu Zhuqing a sufficient sense of security, and her heart was suddenly very satisfied. While Lu Yuan was hurrying, the other people in the ruins were also rushing in the direction of the temple. After all, as long as one wasn't stupid, one would know that the final treasure of the ruins must be in the temple. As the saying goes, A mountain is far away from a mountain. Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing rushed for a full 3 days before they finally reached the center of the plains. In the center, the temple stood tall, and the entire temple was lush with vegetation. Perhaps because it was left behind by the goddess of life, it still exuded a strong vitality, making people feel relaxed and happy. When Lu Yuan arrived, there were already people in front of the ruins. Chapter 132. Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing were delayed due to Zhu Zhuqing's injuries, so they were not the first to arrive. However, this did not seem to matter, as the ruins had not yet opened. The temple was very large, and it was not a simple palace. To be precise, it was a palace complex. Among the many palaces, there was one that was particularly tall. Lu Yuan guessed that the tallest and most magnificent palace was the real Temple of Life. The arrival of Lu Yuan and Selena had obviously attracted the attention of those who had arrived earlier. After all, the ruins were here, and everyone who arrived could be a threat to them. Among them, the earlier one arrived, the stronger one would be, and the greater the threat they posed. Lu Yuan was wearing a mask, so no one could see his appearance clearly. However, Lu Yuan's temperament was too outstanding, so even wearing a mask would attract attention. As for Zhu Zhuqing, she did not wear a mask, and many people in the ruins recognized her. Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing walked forward side by side, looking at the gate that was still locked by green energy. They secretly breathed a sigh of relief. It seemed that they were not too late, and the gate to the ruins had not yet opened. At this time, Lu Yuan looked at the others who had arrived at the ruins. One of them was a man with blonde hair, his nose pointed to the sky, and a proud look on his face. It was the crown prince of the Xianra Empire, Davis. Not far from Davis was a young girl in tight black clothes. Her face was somewhat similar to Zhu Zhuqing's. Although she was slightly inferior to Zhu Zhuqing in terms of appearance and temperament, her desire to step forward was even greater than Zhu Zhuqing's. It was truly terrifying. Needless to say, this must be Zhu Zhuqing's cheap sister, Zhu Zhuyan. According to the original work, Zhu Zhuyan wanted to kill Zhu Zhuqing. Thinking of this, Lu Yuan's eyes flashed with a trace of haze, and a murderous intent flashed in the depths of his eyes. He did not care about the others, but if Davis and Zhu Zhuyan wanted to harm Zhu Zhuqing, he would definitely make them die without a burial place. Obviously, when Lu Yuan was looking at Davis and Selena, Davis and Zhu Zhuyan had also noticed Zhu Zhuqing. Zhu Zhuyan looked at Zhu Zhuqing with a smile, but her eyes carried a trace of killing intent. Davis also cast his gaze on Zhu Zhuqing. Zhu Zhuqing's body trembled slightly at being locked onto by the two of them. Although she was already a rank 23 Soul Grandmaster, Davis and Zhu Zhuyan were both well-known figures among Soul Exalts. Zhu Zhuqing felt an enormous amount of pressure from being locked onto by the two of them. Lu Yuan let out a low snort and moved to stand in front of Zhu Zhuqing. The powerful aura of the Golden Dragon martial spirit fiercely pressed down on the two of them. The Golden Dragon was one of the highest existences among soul beasts. It was born to suppress almost all beast martial souls. Davis's White Tiger and Zhu Zhuqing's Netherworld Civet might be considered top-notch, but they were nothing compared to the Golden Dragon. He was just an ant. Feeling the immense pressure from Lu Yuan, Davis and Zhu Zhuyan almost simultaneously mustered their auras to resist. The three auras clashed together. There seemed to be a bit more of a condensed atmosphere in the air. The rest of the people looked at each other in dismay as they looked at the three of them. It was obvious that there was a conflict between the three of them. They couldn't wait for the three of them to fight to the death. The Golden Dragon martial spirit's aura was innately powerful. Neither the White Tiger nor the Netherworld Civet were a match for it. But don't forget that the White Tiger and the Netherworld Civet complemented each other. When the two of them worked together, their aura was more than doubled. Coupled with the fact that the two of them had higher soul power than Lu Yuan, they were evenly matched for a moment. They even had a tendency to suppress Lu Yuan. Seeing this, Lu Yuan let out a snort. The aura of the Golden Dragon's bloodline was also released. During this time, It was mixed with the might of the spear that Lu Yuan had comprehended. The combination of the golden dragon martial spirit, the golden dragon's bloodline, and the spear's aura instantly shattered Davis and Zhu Zhiyun's auras. Davis and Zhu Zhiyun's faces turned pale when their auras were mercilessly crushed. Their bodies trembled slightly as they looked at Lu Yuan with fear in their eyes. Lu Yuan glanced at the two of them disdainfully. There was even a hint of warning in his eyes. Seeing the warning in Lu Yuan's eyes, Davis clenched his fist so tightly that his fingers turned white. He looked closely at Lu Yuan's golden mask. Davis pulled Zhu Zhiyun and turned around. Lu Yuan turned around and smiled at Zhu Zhuqing. "Zhuqing, it's fine now." Zhu Zhuqing's eyes were slightly red. She looked at Lu Yuan with an unprecedented gentleness in her eyes. This was the scene that she had always yearned for. Originally, she had hoped that Dai Mubai could be like Lu Yuan and stand in front of her to resist the pressure from Davis and Zhu Zhiyun. But Dai Mubai abandoned her and ran away from home alone. At that time, when she received the news, she was really disheartened. But God was kind to her. When she was in danger, Lu Yuan appeared out of thin air. This man shielded her from all the wind and rain like a god and saved her. Zhu Zhuqing smiled. Her smile was unprecedentedly sweet. She looked at her sister not far away. For some reason, Zhu Zhuqing felt that her sister, whom she used to hate, was a little sad. In the end, she was just a sacrifice for her family's power, a tool for marriage. And she had the best man in the world. At that moment, Zhu Zhuqing really fell in love with Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan naturally didn't know what Zhu Zhuqing was thinking. But when he saw the smile on Zhu Zhuqing's face, he felt very happy. What had he been pursuing all this time? Wasn't it to make everyone around him happy? Looking at Davis and Selena not far away, Lu Yuan made up his mind. No matter what, he would never let these two people leave the ruins alive. Even if they could be resurrected after dying in the ruins, he wanted these two to be seriously injured. He didn't believe that resurrection wouldn't have any side effects. Lu Yuan's gaze swept over the other people who had arrived. Seeing Lu Yuan's gaze, these people were very vigilant. Just now, Lu Yuan and Davis had already displayed their strength with their oppressive auras. Their strength was absolutely top-notch. Therefore, even if there were soul ancestors among the people present, they weren't willing to provoke Lu Yuan because Lu Yuan's aura was too dangerous. Lu Yuan's gaze deeply swept over the two soul ancestors. He had already become serious. No matter what, soul ancestors weren't soul elders. They were worthy of Lu Yuan's attention. Of course, the only ones worthy of his attention were the two soul ancestors, Davis and Zhu Zhiyun's netherworld white tiger. As for the others, they weren't within Lu Yuan's scope of consideration. Lu Yuan's gaze swept around habitually. Suddenly, a woman dressed in gold and white appeared in front of Lu Yuan's eyes. Lu Yuan's heart beat rapidly. He couldn't help but whisper, "Senior sister." Chapter 133. What kind of figure was that? Short golden hair draped over her shoulders, and she wore a woman's golden mask on her face. She was dressed in golden white robes, but there was an unconcealable charm about her. Her figure was excellent and curvaceous, as if she was God's most perfect masterpiece. Although her face could not be seen because of the mask, it did not affect her unique temperament. Even in the crowd, she was as dazzling as a star. Lu Yuan stared at the figure in a daze. It was a figure that had long been imprinted in his heart. There was no need to guess or doubt. Lu Yuan could recognize her at a glance. Ever since they had entered the ruins, he had not seen her again, and he had often been worried about her. Today, he had finally seen his senior sister's figure. Lu Yuan's heart was filled with pleasant surprise. "Senior sister, she's safe and sound after all. That's enough." Hulina's figure moved quickly. Ever since the shrine had appeared, she had been rushing towards this place without stopping because she knew that her junior brother, whom she had been missing day and night, would definitely be rushing towards this place. "It's been 25 days since I've seen my junior brother. I miss him." Ever since they had entered the ruins and been separated from Lu Yuan, Hulina had been counting the days. 25 days was a huge torture for Hulina. If she could, she would not bear to leave Lu Yuan for even a moment. Close, I'm finally close. Hulina smiled. As long as she could make it here, she would be closer to her junior brother. She believed that her junior brother would be here very soon. Perhaps he was already waiting for her here. Hulina's speed was very fast. Not long after, the entrance of the ruins came into view. Hulina's eyes swept across the area. The so-called ancient ruins palace did not arouse any interest in Hulina. Instead, her eyes quickly swept across the crowd around the ruins, searching for a figure that she had been missing day and night. Suddenly, Hulina's mental strength, which surpassed that of an ordinary person, seemed to sense something. Her eyes turned sharply and met with a pair of eyes that were filled with longing and indulgence. Hulina's delicate body trembled. Hulina had felt that familiar gaze for many years. It's him. It's definitely him. For Hulina, she might have mistaken others, but for him, Hulina would never mistake him. Moreover, that person was wearing a familiar mask, which belonged to the same set as the one on her face. Junior brother. Looking at Lu Yuan's familiar figure, Hulina's eyes were filled with intense and burning affection. Sure enough, she had guessed correctly. Junior brother had been waiting for her here for a long time. The two of them stared at each other tightly. Their gazes seemed to be able to speak as they unscrupulously expressed their longing for each other. Although it was only a short 25 days, to the two of them, it was as if they had been separated by 1,000 years. They had endless things to talk about. However, when they met again, all the longing were hidden in the eyes that looked directly at each other. Zhu Zhuqing looked at Lu Yuan's stiff figure and the gentle gaze in his eyes. She felt a little jealous. She could not help but cast her cold gaze in the direction Lu Yuan was looking at. Hulina's figure was absolutely perfect. Perhaps she was not as outstanding as Zhu Zhuqing in certain aspects, but her fatal seduction was not something that Zhu Zhuqing could compare to. Moreover, Hulina was older than Zhu Zhuqing. She was more mature than Zhu Zhuqing. A threat, a strong threat. Zhu Zhuqing felt a huge threat from Hulina. This woman's seduction towards men was unimaginable. Zhu Zhuqing bit her red lips. Looking at the familiar mask on Hulina's face, she understood something. Is she Lu Yuan's senior sister? The mask on Hulina's face, the clothes on her body that were somewhat similar to her own style, and Lu Yuan's gentle and affectionate gaze, all pointed to one thing. The girl in front of her was the senior sister that Lu Yuan had always been worried about. Lu Yuan looked at Hulina, his eyes flashing with tenderness. Senior sister. Lu Yuan called out softly, his voice a little hoarse. Junior brother. Hearing Lu Yuan's call, Hulina quickly sped up and ran in the direction of Lu Yuan. Looking at Hulina running over, Lu Yuan opened his arms wide. A gust of fragrant wind drifted over, and Hulina's delicate body suddenly disappeared into Lu Yuan's embrace. Lu Yuan hugged Hulina's waist tightly, as if he wanted to rub her into his body. Hulina hugged Lu Yuan tightly, like a small animal, carefully leaning into Lu Yuan's embrace. At this moment, the two of them seemed to have neglected everyone around them. Zhu Zhuqing looked at Lu Yuan's actions from the side, and her heart fluctuated. When Lu Yuan said that, she didn't take it to heart. She felt that she could still accept Hulina's existence in her heart. But when Lu Yuan really hugged Hulina in his arms, Zhu Zhuqing couldn't help but feel a trace of jealousy in her heart. But Zhu Zhuqing wasn't an ordinary girl, and she quickly sorted out her feelings. Her pair of big eyes quietly watched the actions of the two of them. Hulina laid in Lu Yuan's embrace, greedily sucking in the familiar scent of Lu Yuan's body. Her heart couldn't help but feel at ease. Junior brother always had a sense of security, and it was fascinating. Lu Yuan smiled and touched Hulina's short hair. The texture of Hulina's hair was different from Zhu Zhuqing's. Although it was shorter and not as soft as Zhu Zhuqing's hair, it was smoother. Hulina's jade-like hand drew circles on Lu Yuan's chest, but her mouth was telling of her deep yearning. Junior brother, I missed you so much. I missed you too, senior sister. Lu Yuan sniffed Hulina's fragrance and said in the same gentle manner. After being separated for so long, the two of them missed each other very much, especially in the ruins, where there were so many dangers. Both of them were worried about each other's safety. Now that they met again, the two of them almost put down the worries in their hearts at the same time. The two of them hugged for a while, but in the end, they let go. Hulina was too excited just now and didn't notice it. But now that she reacted, there were so many people around watching. Even with Hulina's bold personality, she couldn't help but feel shy. Lu Yuan naturally didn't feel anything. Anyway, he was thick-skinned and didn't care about these things. Hulina carefully looked at Lu Yuan. Junior brother was still as strong as before. Very good. It seemed that junior brother didn't suffer any injuries. After hugging Lu Yuan, Hulina's originally excited mood slowly calmed down. At this time, she couldn't help but notice Zhu Zhuqing, who was beside Lu Yuan. Who is this lady? Looking at the pretty Zhu Zhuqing beside Lu Yuan, Hulina's flirtatious eyes moved slightly, and she asked Lu Yuan who was beside her. Lu Yuan was just about to speak when Zhu Zhuqing stepped forward and took the initiative to reach out her jade-like hand. Hello, I'm Zhu Zhuqing. Chapter 134. Hello, I'm Zhu Zhuqing. Facing the seductive Hulina, Niu Zhuqing behaved naturally and gracefully. Zhu Zhuqing. Hulina was slightly stunned. Then she stretched out her right hand and said, Hello, I'm Hulina, Lu Yuan's senior sister. Hello, I've heard Lu Yuan mention your name a long time ago. Zhu Zhuqing shook hands with Hulina and then withdrew her arm. Is that so? Hulina looked at Lu Yuan with a faint smile. What did he say about me? Zhu Zhuqing paused and said, I kept hearing him talking about how beautiful and charming senior sister was. Moreover, he was very worried about your safety all along the way. Sometimes, he would even call out your name when he fell asleep. Oh, when Hulina heard this, her heart warmed. She looked at Lu Yuan and said in her heart, At least you have some conscience. My feelings for you weren't in vain. After hearing Zhu Zhuqing's words, Lu Yuan, who was standing at the side, couldn't help but give Zhu Zhuqing a thumbs up. Zhu Zhuqing, you're smart. Not only did Zhu Zhuqing not have a conflict with Hulina, but she also took the initiative to be friendly. Lu Yuan couldn't help but be a little surprised. He had underestimated Zhu Zhuqing's wisdom. If the two of them had a conflict, then Lu Yuan couldn't do anything. It was impossible for him to side with one of them. However, in the end, Zhu Zhuqing would definitely be at a disadvantage because Hulina was not only Lu Yuan's woman, but also Lu Yuan's senior sister. She also had a big backer, Bibi Dan, behind her. And Zhu Zhuqing only had Lu Yuan. Other than that, she had nothing else. And emotionally, Lu Yuan now loved Hulina more. However, although Zhu Zhuqing looked cold on the outside, her heart was as clear as a mirror. She had her own wisdom. Facing a strong enemy, like Hulina, Zhu Zhuqing chose to put down her status and take the initiative to be friendly. Lu Yuan couldn't help but cheer for her. In fact, Zhu Zhuqing's decision was a very good one. Zhu Zhuqing's words were mixed with Lu Yuan's longing and worry for Hulina. For Hulina, who loved Lu Yuan to the bone, this was undoubtedly the best flattery. She couldn't help but have a better impression of Zhu Zhuqing. On the other hand, Zhu Zhuqing was also showing her magnanimity to Lu Yuan. I've already put down my pride. If Hulina still wants to make a scene later, then you can't blame me. You have to help me, right? Lu Yuan also realized Zhu Zhuqing's intentions, which was why he appreciated Zhu Zhuqing even more. She knew her limits and knew when to advance and when to retreat. She was indeed a good wife. Moreover, he naturally hoped that Zhu Zhuqing and Hulina could get along well with each other. Hulina had a smile in her eyes. She glanced at Lu Yuan beside her, and the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. She asked, Junior brother, do you really call my name when you sleep? If you don't believe me, you can sleep with me tonight. You will know then. Lu Yuan spread his hands and said, Bah. Hearing this, Hulina was shy in her heart. Although she usually liked to pester Lu Yuan and wanted to sleep with Lu Yuan, there were so many people here, and Zhu Zhuqing was also here. When Lu Yuan said this, she was still a little shy in her heart. After all, although she was bold, she wasn't as thick-skinned as Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan never cared about other people's opinions, but she couldn't. Hulina was shy in her heart and quickly changed the topic. She looked at Zhu Zhuqing and asked Lu Yuan, "This sister in you?" Zhu Zhuqing also looked at Lu Yuan. She wanted to hear how Lu Yuan would answer the question of their relationship. "Zhuqing," Lu Yuan smiled faintly and said, "Of course it's the same as you, senior sister." Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing heaved a sigh of relief, but Hulina pouted her cherry lips. "I knew it." Hulina took a step closer, and her jade-like hands touched Lu Yuan's waist. She pinched Lu Yuan's skin and twisted it fiercely. Lu Yuan couldn't help but grimace. "You stinky junior brother, I'm worried about you, but you have a new lover. Tell me, do you not care about me at all?" Hulina whispered into Lu Yuan's ear. Her voice was very soft, and Zhu Zhuqing shouldn't have heard it. "Senior sister, this was really an accident. There were some irresistible factors that happened." Lu Yuan explained in a low voice. "What irresistible factors? Tell me about it." Hulina's tone was gentle, but there was a trace of coldness. Lu Yuan couldn't help but feel goosebumps all over his body. Lu Yuan smiled bitterly. He then told Zhu Zhuqing from the beginning to the end about how he had helped her heal her injuries and how he had seen her body. "Under those circumstances, if I didn't do that, Zhuqing would have died. I couldn't just watch her die," Lu Yuan said helplessly. Hearing Lu Yuan's words, Hulina sighed. She knew that Zhu Zhuqing couldn't run away. She knew her junior brother better than anyone. Well, he didn't accept you. No matter how much you begged, it was useless. But if he decided to accept someone, then no one could object. Unfortunately, her junior brother was an extremely responsible person. This junior brother, Zhu Zhuqing, was most likely going to be accepted. Not to mention Hulina, even if Chihiro Snow came, it would be useless. But although she knew that this was already an established fact, Hulina was naturally unwilling to have another person as her junior brother. After thinking about it for a long time, Hulina felt that since Zhu Zhuqing couldn't avoid it, then she should let her be the last one. This time, Hulina and Zhu Zhuqing's thoughts were surprisingly the same. "Zhuqing, can I call you that?" Hulina let go of Lu Yuan, took Zhu Zhuqing's hand, and walked to the side. Seeing this, Lu Yuan didn't know why, but he felt a chill in his heart. He felt that something bad might happen to him. It had to be said that Lu Yuan's spiritual sense was really unexpectedly strong. He did perceive something. When Hulina took her hand, Zhu Zhuqing was shocked. But when she felt the kindness shown by Hulina, her mood calmed down. It seemed that this Hulina wasn't that difficult to get along with. "Sister Hu, what's the matter?" Zhu Zhuqing asked softly. "Sister Hu," Hulina chuckled and said, "You can call me Nana. If you really can't, you can call me Sister Na. I think I should be older than you." "And, Sister Na, hello. My age is actually about the same as Lu Yuan." Zhu Zhuqing nodded. "Zhuqing, I have a few questions to ask you." "Ask," Zhu Zhuqing said. Seeing Zhu Zhuqing's appearance, Hulina nodded. Not to mention other things, Zhu Zhuqing's attitude was still very good. Junior brother's eyesight is still not bad. Although this Zhu Zhuqing in front of her looks a little cold, her heart is actually pure and she is more sincere. Most importantly, her figure is also far beyond ordinary people. Seeing that Zhu Zhuqing seems to be more proud than herself, Hulina couldn't help but think. Chapter 135. She heard that Zhu Zhuqing was about the same age as her junior brother, so she should be about 5 years younger than her. However, her figure seemed a little terrifying. Even in Hulina's eyes, Zhu Zhuqing was also a peerless beauty. She had a cold face and a hot figure. Although she was still young and her face was still a little immature, she would definitely be a peerless beauty in a few years when she grew up. Even when compared to her, although she was less seductive, she was more pure and cold. It could be said that they both had their advantages. Hulina couldn't help but admire Lu Yuan's eyesight. Sure enough, as long as this stinky junior brother took a fancy to her, she was a peerless beauty. Whether it was her or Zhu Zhuqing, they both belonged to this category. Needless to say, Chihiro Snow was known as the #1 beauty in the Douluo continent. Her perfect appearance had once made Hulina feel a little gloomy, and this stinky junior brother had never been able to forget her. Hulina looked at Zhu Zhuqing and asked, Zhuqing, do you like your junior brother? Do I like Lu Yuan? Of course I like him. Zhu Zhuqing nodded and said, I like him. Hulina nodded. She knew that although she had no choice but to accept Zhu Zhuqing because of her injuries, Lu Yuan was so outstanding. If Zhu Zhuqing didn't like him, she definitely wouldn't have agreed to such a request. Since Zhu Zhuqing was willing, then she must have fallen in love with Lu Yuan. Hulina said, Then do you know about Chihiro Snow? Zhu Zhuqing nodded, then shook her head and said, I know a little, but I'm not very clear. I only heard him say that Chihiro Snow is the person he loves the most. Sister Na, is this true? Yes, it's true. Hulina sighed and said, For junior brother, Chihiro Snow's existence is already his obsession. She's also the only girl that junior brother has pursued with all his heart. Although I am very unwilling, I know that in junior brother's heart, I am far inferior to Chihiro Snow. Is that so? Zhu Zhuqing's face was expressionless. No one knew what she was thinking. Meanwhile, Hulina suddenly smiled and said, Zhuqing, let's make an agreement. Agreement? What agreement? Zhu Zhuqing's eyes widened. Hulina smiled faintly and said, You also know junior brother's appearance and temperament. To us girls, it is simply a fatal attraction. I think that no matter what kind of girl it is, it would be very difficult to resist junior brother's charm. Zhu Zhuqing nodded her head slightly. Indeed, Lu Yuan's appearance and temperament were simply too outstanding. It was very easy for him to attract the attention of girls. Even she had easily fallen for Lu Yuan's charm. Then what do you mean, Sister Na? Zhu Zhuqing asked. Right now, junior brother already has Chihiro Snow, me, and you. This is already enough. I think that we can't let junior brother go on like this. We have to supervise him well and not let him fool around outside. Hulina said, Well, that makes sense. Zhu Zhuqing said, But he has already promised me that as long as there are no irresistible factors in the future, he will only have the 3 of us in his life. Zhu Zhuqing said, Is that so? Hulina asked. Yes, he said it himself. Zhu Zhuqing said, Since he said it, then it is most likely true. However, we still can't relax our vigilance. Junior brother's charm is too great. We have to be more careful around him. Hulina said as if it was a matter of fact. Okay, Sister Na. Lu Yuan looked at the 2 people whispering to each other. A black line flashed across his forehead. Do these 2 girls really think that I can't hear them just because their voices are soft? Do you think that Lu Yuan's spiritual sense, is a joke? Listening to the 2 people's serious words, Lu Yuan felt a little funny in his heart. However, he was also a little touched in his heart. Aren't they doing this to show that they love me? In fact, even if they didn't say it, he didn't want to casually provoke girls anymore unless there were really some irresistible factors. However, that was something that couldn't be stopped by human strength. In his opinion, the 3 of them were enough. Hulina walked back with Zhu Zhuqing. Both of them looked at Lu Yuan at the same time. Their gazes were very serious. In just a short while, the 2 people completely stood on the same side on the matter of not allowing Lu Yuan to fool around anymore. Lu Yuan looked at the 2 beauties standing in front of him. A smile flashed across his eyes, and he said, It seems that you 2 have something to say. Junior brother. Hulina spoke first. How many girls have you provoked so far? Lu Yuan smiled and said, Isn't it just the 3 of you? Then you think 3 isn't enough? Zhu Zhuqing's voice was cold. It's enough. Lu Yuan said, What do you 2 want to say? Hulina said, Junior brother, now you already have the 3 of us. Don't fool around in the future, okay? Hulina took a step forward and leaned slightly on Lu Yuan's shoulder. Her voice was soft. You promised me that you wouldn't provoke other girls in the future. Does it still count? Zhu Zhuqing's face was cold. She looked at Lu Yuan with a cold gaze. Seeing this, Lu Yuan couldn't help but feel a little funny in his heart. These two girls, one is using the hard way and the other is using the soft way. It's really hard on them. Of course I'll keep my word. Lu Yuan's left hand hugged Hulina into his arms. His right hand held Zhu Zhuqing's jade hand and pulled slightly. At the same time, Zhu Zhuqing was also pulled into his arms. Gently hugging the two girls, Lu Yuan said, "It's enough to have you two. Why should I be greedy and be like a snake trying to swallow an elephant? I promise that unless something happens that I really can't resist in this life, there will only be the three of you. I will never take the initiative to provoke any girl again. Is this okay?" "Junior brother, you have to remember what you said," Hulina said softly. "That's more like it," Zhu Zhuqing said softly. Lu Yuan smiled slightly. It felt really good to hug two beauties on both sides at the same time. He gently let go of the two girls. Just now, he was very emotional. However, there were still people here after all, so he couldn't be too intimate. What's more, Hulina and Zhu Zhuqing's skin was not as thick as his. They would be shy. Lu Yuan and the other two had extraordinary temperaments. It was easy for them to be noticed by others. Now that the three of them were hugging like this, they would definitely be noticed by others. Lu Yuan glanced around and found that no one was paying attention to them. Curious, he looked up and saw that the ruins had begun to change. The originally dusty door began to emit light. The original green energy began to gradually dissipate. The ruins seemed to be about to open. No wonder no one was paying attention to them. However, since the ruins were about to open, then the fiercest competition would follow. Chapter 136. Are the ruins about to open? Hulina asked. Lu Yuan nodded and said, "Senior sister, Zhuqing, follow me closely later. Don't move alone." "Okay." The two girls nodded. "Junior brother, did you discover something?" Hulina asked softly. "I did discover something. Let's not talk about other things for now. Almost everyone here today is at least a soul elder, and there are even two soul ancestors. We have to be careful." Lu Yuan's expression was a little serious as he said, "Especially Zhuqing. Although you're fast, there's still a huge gap in soul power between you and them. It'll be a little difficult for you to match them. Later, you have to stay close to me. Only then can I protect you." Zhu Zhuqing bit her red lips, and her expression was a little gloomy. So what if she was a soul grandmaster? In the end, she still couldn't help Lu Yuan. Instead, she needed Lu Yuan to protect her. She felt so useless. Lu Yuan saw through Zhu Zhuqing's thoughts with a glance. He rubbed her head and said gently, "Zhuqing, I know what you're thinking. You're still young. Many of them are 8 or 9 years older than you. It's normal that your soul power can't compare to theirs. When you reach their age, you'll definitely be much stronger than them." Hulina nodded after hearing Lu Yuan's words. She said, "Sister Zhuqing, junior brother's words make sense. You're still young, but when you grow up, you'll definitely be able to help junior brother." Hulina knew that Zhu Zhuqing was vexed because she couldn't help Lu Yuan. She understood this mentality because she had always been working hard to cultivate so that she could be of help when her junior brother needed it. "Okay, I understand." Zhu Zhuqing wasn't someone who didn't understand things. After a slight hesitation, she accepted Lu Yuan's arrangement. However, she secretly made up her mind to cultivate properly and strive to help Lu Yuan. "Good Zhuqing." Lu Yuan stroked Zhu Zhuqing's hair with a trace of a smile on his face. "The door is open." The green energy gradually dissipated and finally disappeared completely. The door that had been sealed for a long time was finally open. "Let's go." As soon as the door opened, the people who had been waiting for a long time rushed inside. "Let's go in too." Lu Yuan pulled Zhu Zhuqing with one hand and Hulina with the other. The three of them squeezed through the crowd and rushed into the gate. "Junior brother, where are we going?" After entering the gate, there were roads in all directions and palaces of all sizes. Hulina was dazzled for a moment. Lu Yuan looked at the tallest palace and said, "Let's not worry about anything else for now. Let's go to the Temple of Life first." "Temple of Life?" Hulina's tone was filled with doubt. She always felt that her junior brother seemed to know something about this ruin that others didn't. Let's go first. I'll talk to you on the way. With his left arm around Zhu Zhuqing and Hu Lina by his side, Lu Yuan quickly moved towards the Temple of Life. Are you saying that this temple was left behind by the Goddess of Life? Hu Lina asked. Yes, Lu Yuan said. This entire ruin was left behind by the Goddess of Life, one of the 5 divine kings of the divine realm. The Goddess of Life is kind, so I guess that there should be a resurrection effect inside this ruin. People who die in the ruin may be resurrected outside the ruin. Only the Goddess of Life, who is proficient in the law of life, can do this. No wonder, after I killed those people, their corpses turned into green light spots and disappeared. Maybe they have been resurrected outside the ruin. Hu Lina suddenly realized. That's right, Lu Yuan said. But although they can be resurrected, once they die, they lose the qualification to continue exploring the ruin. Hu Lina nodded. Zhu Zhuqing was lying in Lu Yuan's arms. Looking at Lu Yuan, her eyes were shining. Sure enough, the more she got along with this man, the more mysterious he was. When others knew nothing about the ruin, he had already made his own judgment. Swoosh! The 3 of them continued to move forward along the path. Suddenly, a burst of medicinal fragrance came. This medicinal fragrance was too strong, causing the 3 of them to be shocked. The 3 of them continued to move forward. At this time, a huge medicinal garden was reflected in their eyes. The garden was full of all kinds of rare medicinal herbs, each of which was priceless. 9-leaf mushroom. This is purple spirit fruit. What a big cinnabar fruit. Oh my, the ginseng is so big. The 3 of them couldn't help but be shocked on the spot. This medicinal garden was simply full of spiritual herbs. Almost every spiritual herb here was greatly beneficial to a soul master's cultivation. Although it couldn't strengthen one's foundation, it could raise one's soul power by 1 or 2 ranks without any problem. The key point was that this was only the effect of one spiritual herb, but here there was a medicinal garden full of spiritual herbs. Zhu Zhuqing was stunned. Hu Lina also opened her eyes wide. Even if it was her, she had never seen so many spiritual herbs before. Junior brother, what should we do? Hu Lina looked at Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan took a deep breath. Looking at the medicinal garden full of spiritual herbs, he suppressed the greedy desire in his heart. He always felt that there was something wrong with this medicinal garden. However, after entering a treasure mountain, they couldn't return empty-handed. Each of us will take one. We don't need any more, Lu Yuan said. Junior brother, there are so many spiritual herbs. We can take a little more, Hu Lina said. In her opinion, if they took all of this medicinal garden and brought it back to the Martial Soul Palace, they would definitely be able to cultivate many outstanding soul masters. The Martial Soul Palace's power would rise to another level. Senior sister, greed is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. Be obedient. Lu Yuan had a voice in his heart that kept telling him that he could only take one spiritual herb at most. If he took too many, he would definitely regret it. Lu Yuan didn't know where this premonition came from, but this feeling had helped him more than once, so he believed it very much. After hearing Lu Yuan's words, although Hu Lina felt that it was a pity, she still chose to do as he said. She would still listen to Lu Yuan's words. Hu Lina picked a ginseng that was as thick as an arm, while Zhu Zhuqing picked a purple spirit fruit. Lu Yuan took a 9-leaf Ganoderma and put it into his star ring. Then, the 3 of them directly left the medicinal garden. After the 3 of them left, a large group of people came to the medicinal garden. Seeing the spiritual herbs all over the ground, they began to crazily pick them. Suddenly, a purple mist rose from the medicinal garden. As the purple mist shrouded the entire medicinal garden, all of the soul masters crazily plundering the spiritual herbs disappeared without a trace. Divine realm, a huge palace. There was a purple figure. Looking at the people crazily plundering the spiritual herbs in the medicinal garden, a trace of disgust flashed through his eyes. Greedy mortals, you are not worthy of Xiao Lu's gift. Disappear. The purple figure looked at Lu Yuan, who was rushing towards the Temple of Life, and nodded. It seems that there are good seedlings. Chapter 137. Little Purple, what are you looking at? Just as the purple figure was looking at Lu Yuan's figure in the ruins, a delicate voice with a hint of crispness rang out. This voice was as crisp as an oriole's, as if it went straight to the bottom of one's heart. It was indescribably refreshing. Little Green, the ruins you left in the Douluo continent have opened. I'm looking at the situation. The purple figure said. Oh, did you find anything? A beautiful woman dressed in green appeared. Her face was filled with incomparable gentleness. It was as if looking at her could even cleanse one's life. From the purple figure's words, one could tell that this woman in green was one of the 5 supreme gods of the divine realm, the god of life, the god of life. The purple figure was another one of the 5 supreme gods. He was also the husband of the god of life, the god of destruction. These humans in the lower realm are still as greedy as before. They are hopeless. Fortunately, I left some backup plans in your temple. Your gift is not something these people are qualified to receive. The god of destruction shook his head, expressing his deep disdain for those who were crazily plucking spiritual herbs. Are there no exceptions? The god of life asked. If they were all like this, then she was really going to be disappointed. There is one exception, and it's a very interesting kid. The god of destruction looked at Lu Yuan's figure in the image and said, Oh. The god of life stepped forward and looked at Lu Yuan's movements. She smiled and said, It seems that the thing I left behind should be obtained by this kid. Yes. The god of destruction hugged the god of life and asked with a smile, Little Green, what did you leave behind? Nothing much, just 3 life spiritual crystals and a seed. The god of life smiled. 3 life spiritual crystals. You are very generous. The god of destruction's face showed a trace of surprise. The life spirit crystal was a treasure that only the goddess of life could create. Each life spirit crystal contained boundless life spirit chi. Not only could it strengthen one's physique, but it could also refine one's martial soul and improve its quality. The most important effect was that it could heal fatal injuries. As long as one didn't die, no matter how serious the injury, it could quickly heal. It was a true miracle. It could be said that if one swallowed a life spirit crystal, unless their brain died or their heart was completely destroyed, the life spirit crystal could revive them. It was that terrifying. Moreover, the life spirit crystal also contained a trace of the law of life. This thing could continue to temper one's body and strengthen one's foundation until it was completely absorbed. Then what about that seed? The God King of Destruction asked. Do you remember the God seed we found in the center of the God realm after we were born? The Goddess of Destruction asked. I remember. The God King of Destruction nodded and said, The power in that God seed was a little strange. It seemed to have no attributes, but it contained a lot of power. If anyone could refine that God seed and become a god, there might be a god no weaker than a God King. It's just that the God seed is too difficult to refine. We tried many times, but there was no reaction from the God seed. Moreover, the divine power without attributes didn't seem to have much effect. The God King of Destruction said, You also put it in the lower realm? Yes. The Goddess of Life nodded and said, Since we can't figure it out, we might as well put it in the lower realm. Maybe a miracle will happen. The God King of Destruction nodded, but he didn't take it too seriously. Putting aside the fact that it was difficult to refine the God seed and that it was a divine power with no attributes, even if it was refined, one would become a god at most in the divine king realm. The supreme being of destruction himself was in the divine king realm, so there was no need to be too concerned. At this time, he was looking at the scene below with interest. Lu Yuan naturally didn't know that he was being spied on by 2 big shots in the heavenly realm. He, Zhu Zhuqing, and Hulina quickly rushed to the Temple of Life. The temple was very large, and there were 4 big words engraved on the plaque. Temple of Life. Golden light gushed out from the temple, bringing with it an unimaginable divine majesty. The three of them couldn't help but tremble a little. This was the might of a god. Lu Yuan finally calmed his mind. He pulled Hulina with one hand and Zhu Zhuqing with the other and walked toward the main hall. Under the golden light, the three of them walked into the main hall. Ding! The moment Lu Yuan stepped into the main hall, the system's voice rang in his ears. Sign-in begins. Sign-in location, Temple of Life. Sign-in time, 5 minutes. Start. Listening to the familiar system's voice in his mind, Lu Yuan's lips curled into a smile. He pulled the two of them and walked inside the temple. The most conspicuous thing in the temple was the tall statue of a god. The bright and majestic divine light was emitted from the statue. The statue was a woman dressed in green with long green hair hanging down to her waist. She held a wooden scepter in her hand. It was greenish gold all over. Although it was just a statue, there was a strong vitality coming from her body. It was exceptionally strange. Lu Yuan knew that this was the statue of the goddess of life. Hulina and Zhu Zhuqing looked around as if they had discovered a new world. It was the first time in their lives that they had seen God's relic. Lu Yuan's eyes moved. Since they had come to the Temple of Life with great difficulty, he didn't believe that there was nothing here. Suddenly, his eyes focused. He saw that there was a wooden tray above the palm of the statue. There seemed to be several things floating on the tray, but they were inconspicuous in the golden light emitted by the statue, so Lu Yuan ignored them. "Senior sister, Zhu Zhuqing, you guys come." Lu Yuan quickly walked in front of the statue. Hulina and Zhu Zhuqing also came behind him. Lu Yuan bowed. At least this relic was left behind by the goddess of life. Now that he wanted to take something left behind by someone else, he had to be polite. Moreover, Lu Yuan didn't think that the goddess of life didn't know about the situation in the relic. Maybe she was secretly watching from somewhere. In the realm of the gods, the goddess of life looked at Lu Yuan's actions and smiled. This kid knows some etiquette. The god of destruction also looked at Lu Yuan with a hint of curiosity in his eyes. "Let's see how far this kid can go with your gift. Maybe he won't disappoint us." The goddess of life smiled and waved her hand gently. In the Temple of Life, the statue of the goddess of life suddenly emitted a strong greenish gold light. The tray in the statue's hand slowly floated in the air and then slowly fell. Lu Yuan stretched out his hands and caught the tray. Chapter 138. Lu Yuan took the wooden tray. There were 4 items on it. Among them, there were 3 jade-green, translucent, diamond-shaped crystals that emitted a bright green glow. Waves of rich life, spiritual qi emanated from them. Lu Yuan and the other 2 couldn't help but tremble, and they instantly became much more energetic. In the middle of the 3 jade-green crystals was a white seed. The seed's aura was very special, and it attracted Lu Yuan greatly. That's right, it was attractive. This was the first time Lu Yuan felt such a strong attraction, and the source of this attraction was the cultivation technique he practiced, the clear air scripture. System, what are these things? Lu Yuan could be considered experienced and knowledgeable, but he couldn't make sense of the 2 items in front of him. The 3 jade-green crystals were easy to understand. The life force contained within them made Lu Yuan have some guesses, but he wasn't sure. However, Lu Yuan really didn't know anything about the white seed. What the hell was this thing? The green seed is the life spiritual crystal, and the white seed is the clear air divine seed. Life spiritual crystal? Is this the life spiritual crystal mentioned in the ancient books? Lu Yuan's heart suddenly trembled. He knew about the life spiritual crystal, and he had done some research on it. It could bring the dead back to life, temper the body, temper the martial soul, improve the quality of the martial soul, and even increase the level of life. It was a rare treasure. The life spiritual crystal was even more precious and rare than the immortal herbs in the ice-fire yin-yang well. Even the king of immortal herbs, yearning heartbroken red, was inferior to it. Just this life spiritual crystal alone could pave the road to godhood. Originally, Lu Yuan was still worried about Hulina becoming a god. However, now that he had the life spiritual crystal, Hulina would basically have no problem inheriting the title of a second-level god in the future if there were no accidents. However, Lu Yuan had never heard of the clear air divine seed before. System, what is this clear air divine seed? At the beginning of the world, the pure ascended to the heavens and the turbid sank to the earth. The so-called pure qi is the foundation of the heavens. Hiss! Lu Yuan sucked in a breath of cold air and said, "So this seed is formed by the pure qi?" Yes. Since the creation of this world, 5 supreme gods have been born. They are kindness, evil, life, destruction, and Shura. They have inherited the power of kindness, evil, life, destruction, and order respectively. However, there is another power that even the creation of the world did not notice, and that is this clear air. On the Douluo continent, the god realm rules over many planes. The so-called god realm is more like a world created by the gathering of faith. It's actually quite fragile, and a burst of space-time turbulence can blow it away. Aside from its own weakness, it's also related to this streak of clear energy. It's precisely because this streak of clear energy hasn't given birth to a god for a long time that the supreme power of the Douluo continent's god realm is lacking. Clear energy is the foundation of the god realm, and the god realm is naturally weak when its foundation is lacking. Kindness, evil, destruction, life, order. I'm clear about these 5 supreme powers, but what kind of power does this clear air represent? The foundation of the heavens is naturally the power of Tao. The so-called Tao is actually the rules. If the clear air divine seed gives birth to a god, it will be the strongest among the divine kings. It might even surpass the divine king realm and control the power of the rules of heaven and earth. It's also because it's too strong that it hasn't been born for a long time. The power of Tao? Lu Yuan was a little puzzled and said, "What's the difference between the power of Tao and the power of order?" That's a huge difference. The system's voice sounded, "The so-called order, in my opinion, is more like a kind of balance. The meaning of the existence of the Shura God's order is to balance kindness and evil, life and destruction. It's also because of this that the Shura's combat power is the strongest among the 5 divine kings. On the other hand, the power of Tao encompasses everything, whether it's kindness and evil, life and destruction, or order. They are all under the control of the power of Tao. The power of Tao is everywhere. It's the foundation of all things in the world. Fire is hot, ice is cold, water can be condensed into ice, and ice can be melted into water. This is the power of Tao. To put it simply, if you can fuse with this clear air divine seed and finally become a god, then in the Douluo divine world and the many planes controlled by the Douluo divine world, you will be the ruler. You can speak the law of heaven, and your words will follow. Is that clear?" "Clear." Lu Yuan nodded. Looking at the clear air divine seed in front of him, his heart was filled with passion. But why would the goddess of life put such a precious thing here? If she refined it herself, wouldn't she be able to comprehend the clear air and become a god? Lu Yuan was puzzled. "Do you think this thing can be refined so easily?" The system's cold voice sounded. "The clear air itself doesn't have any attributes. It's the foundation of the heavens. The heavens contain all things. How can the power of the clear air be refined by the mere power of life? It can be said that other than you, no one else in this world can refine this clear air divine seed. No one else can refine it except me. Is it because of the clear air scripture?" Lu Yuan's voice sounded. "You're not stupid. Since the birth of this clear air divine seed, it has been nurtured by the center of the divine world. The center of the divine world controls the entire divine world. Whoever controls the center of the divine world controls the entire divine world. This was originally the responsibility of the clear air divine seed. It was only because the clear air divine seed didn't give birth to a god that the center of the divine world replaced it. But how can a mere replacement mechanism be compared to the clear air divine seed that controls Tao? The clear air is the foundation of the heavens. Naturally, only the power of the same origin can refine it. Have you forgotten the origin of your clear air scripture? The supreme clarity, immortal scripture? Lu Yuan exclaimed. Lu Yuan remembered that the three pure ones were formed by Pangu's primordial spirit, fusing with the heaven-splitting clear air. It was also because the three pure ones took away 3 strands of heaven-splitting clear air that caused the original 36 heavens to become 33 heavens. Therefore, after the 3 pure ones became saints, each of them created a layer of heaven to make up for the karma of the past. The Supreme Clarity Immortal Scripture was created by the Supreme Clarity Lord of Tao and Virtue. It cultivated the clear air divine seed and advocated honoring the clear and suppressing the impure. Although the clear air scripture was a simplified version of the Supreme Clarity Immortal Scripture, it still contained the essence of it. It was also about honoring the clear and suppressing the impure. Indeed, if there was anyone in this Douluo continent who could refine this clear air divine seed, then it was only him. This was really a great blessing. This trip to the Temple of Life was the right one. Right at this moment, the system's voice sounded again. Congratulations to the host for completing the sign-in mission. Sign in to the Temple of Life. The reward is 1 treasure chest. Do you wish to open it? Hearing this, Lu Yuan was delighted, and the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. Is this a double blessing? Chapter 139. Not for now. Lu Yuan ordered the system. Yes, the system will automatically reserve it for 3 days. Listening to the system's voice in his mind, Lu Yuan looked at the two of them with a smile. Junior brother, what are these? Hulina asked softly as she looked at the 3 spiritual life crystals and the spirit cleansing seed on the tray. Of course they're good stuff. Lu Yuan smiled and said, the emerald green diamond-shaped crystal is called the spiritual life crystal. It has almost endless spiritual life force and can strengthen your physique and refine the quality of your martial soul. Not only that, it can also strengthen your foundation and make your future path of cultivation smooth. I'm guessing that after you absorb the spiritual life crystal, your martial souls will definitely undergo a huge transformation and might even evolve. Really? Hulina's tone had a trace of shock. She asked again, Junior brother, you're saying that this thing can evolve our martial souls? Zhu Zhuqing, who was standing at the side, also looked at Lu Yuan in astonishment. Evolving his martial soul, this was somewhat shocking. Of course it's true. Don't forget that this is something left behind by the goddess of life. Evolving the martial soul is just a small matter. Lu Yuan said with a smile. Yes. The two of them suddenly came back to their senses. One had to know that the spiritual life crystal was something left behind by the goddess of life. With the means of a god, evolving a martial soul was just a small matter. The 3 of us will each have 1 spiritual life crystal. As for the white seed, Lu Yuan said, Junior brother, keep the seed. Hulina said, and Zhu Zhuqing also nodded her head. Their eyes were very clear, and there was no desire in them at all. Although they could guess that the value of this seed was far above the spiritual life crystal. After all, the rarer something was, the more valuable it was. There were 3 spiritual life crystals, but there was only 1 seed. It was obvious that this seed was more precious. However, there was only 1 seed, so they gave it to Lu Yuan without hesitation. Lu Yuan was touched and said, then I'll keep it for now. You guys can absorb the life crystal first. I'll stand guard for you. Someone will arrive here soon. Let's go first. Hulina said, go. Where can we go? Logically speaking, we have already obtained the last treasure, so the entire trip to the ruins should be over. Then the door to the small world should be open. But do you see any signs of it opening now? Lu Yuan asked rhetorically. What do you mean? Zhu Zhuqing asked. Obviously, the test isn't over yet. We got the treasure first, but perhaps we still have to show the strength to get the treasure. So, in order to prevent any accidents from happening, you two should absorb it first. I will stand guard for you. Lu Yuan stuffed the life spiritual crystal into their hands. Then how do we absorb this? Hulina asked. This was the first time she had heard of the life spiritual crystal. She didn't know how to use it at all. Furthermore, this spiritual crystal looked so hard that it didn't seem like it was meant to be eaten. If we bite down on it, will our teeth break? Hulina's mind was filled with strange thoughts. Senior sister, you're not thinking of eating it, are you? Lu Yuan seemed to have sensed Hulina's thoughts and asked. Hearing this, Hulina's mouth twitched. As expected, this stinky junior brother had guessed it. This stinky junior brother seemed to know her quite well. It's actually very simple. The life spiritual crystal is actually completely condensed from rich life spiritual energy. As long as you place it in your heart and circulate enough soul power, you can absorb the energy from the life spiritual crystal. After absorbing it, the energy from the life spiritual crystal will be transmitted from your heart to every part of your body. It will even be transmitted to your brain to temper your martial soul. After that, the remaining energy will be stored in your heart. With every blood flow, it will strengthen your body bit by bit, improving your bones and physique. Lu Yuan said, It's that simple? Hulina blinked her big eyes. Of course. How complicated did you think it was? Lu Yuan smiled faintly. You too can absorb it. Lu Yuan smiled. The two girls nodded and sat cross-legged in front of the statue. According to Lu Yuan's method, they began to absorb the life spiritual crystal. As they absorbed the life spiritual crystal, the two girls' bodies began to emit a rich emerald green light. Endless life spiritual energy was emitted from their bodies. As expected of the life spiritual crystal, looking at the two girls, Lu Yuan nodded inwardly. This huge amount of life energy would bring indescribable benefits to Hulina and Zhu Qing. System, open the treasure chest. The treasure chest has been opened. Congratulations to the host for obtaining. Hearing the system's voice, Lu Yuan's face revealed a trace of a smile. With it, even if he had to face a group of heroes alone, he would have nothing to fear. Feeling a slight pain coming from a certain part of his body, Lu Yuan knew that it was the system's power that was modifying him. Once it was completed, his strength would soar greatly. The star ring on Lu Yuan's hand flashed, and the world-shaking spear appeared in his hand. Are they here? Outside the Temple of Life, a large group of young soul masters was rushing over. These soul masters weren't like Lu Yuan, who went straight to the Temple of Life, so they were delayed for some time on the way. However, Lu Yuan and the others had only waited for a while before they arrived. The Temple of Life. The first to arrive was a soul ancestor. Seeing the huge temple in front of him, he was delighted and ran inside. Who are you? The soul ancestor's shocked voice rang out. Get out! Bang! This was the sound of the spear colliding with a body. The soul ancestor who had entered first let out a blood-curdling scream. He spat out a mouthful of blood and flew out. At this time, most of the remaining people had arrived. The ones in the lead were the other soul ancestor, Davis, and Zhu Zhiyun. Apart from the three of them, there were also more than 10 young soul masters. Seeing the soul ancestor who had been sent flying, everyone was startled and looked at the entrance of the Temple of Life. Resplendent golden light flickered as Lu Yuan walked out of the main hall with a world-shaking spear in his hand. He wore white clothes and a golden mask on his face. His eyes were slightly closed, and he held a 2-meter-long black gold spear in his hand. His entire body was emitting an intense aura. When he arrived not far from the crowd, Lu Yuan stopped. He held the spear in his hand horizontally and said indifferently, "This path is blocked." Immediately, almost all the soul masters present were in an uproar. Davis's face was filled with indescribable anger. He had already recognized that this person in front of him was the one who had used his aura to crush him and Zhu Zhiyun at the entrance of the ruins. He immediately took a step forward and said, "Do you know what you're saying?" If he were alone at this moment, he wouldn't have made a move so easily. However, there were more than 10 soul elders here, and 2 of them were soul elders. This strength was enough to completely crush him, so Davis wasn't afraid at all. Chapter 140. Lu Yuan ignored Davis's provocation. With his eyes still closed, he said indifferently, "This road is blocked." Arrogant, Davis shouted angrily, his tiger eyes full of anger. As a prince of the Xianra Empire, who would dare to ignore him like this? His emotions were instantly provoked. "White tiger, possess!" Davis shouted angrily, and his martial soul instantly possessed his body. Davis's figure began to grow taller, and white fur and 5 sharp tiger claws extended from his palms. A huge white tiger shadow shrouded his entire body, and 3 yellow, and purple soul rings rose from his body. Die White Tiger Shield. Davis instantly activated his first soul skill, and his sharp tiger claws slapped towards Lu Yuan's face. Fancy but impractical. Get lost. Lu Yuan's right hand suddenly exerted strength, and the long spear was thrown out. The spear of astonishment collided with Davis's tiger claws with a huge force. Davis screamed, and his tiger claws were broken. The spear of astonishment smashed into his body, and he was sent flying more than 10 meters. White Tiger Martial Soul's first soul skill. Compared to Lu Yuan's 5,000 kilograms of strength, it was just a toy. Davis. Zhu Jian quickly helped Davis up. Davis spat out a large mouthful of blood. Lu Yuan's attack just now had injured him. That huge force had directly broken through the defense of the White Tiger's shield and seriously injured him. One had to know that Lu Yuan was someone who could fight head-on with a 1,000-year-old beast and even win. One could only imagine how terrifying his strength was. Davis dared to charge head-on with only his first soul ring. He was simply courting death. In the end, Davis was just a soul elder. He was no threat to Lu Yuan. Davis stood up. Lu Yuan's attack just now had indeed injured him, but the White Tiger was still a top existence among beast martial souls. Although Davis was injured, his injuries weren't that serious. Everyone, listen to me. This guy is blocking the door. He must want to take all the treasures for himself. If we don't take care of him, we won't get anything. Once we're done with him, we can split the remaining treasures equally, Davis said loudly to the people behind him. The attack just now made him clearly aware of the gap between himself and Lu Yuan. However, there were more than 10 people present. He didn't believe that so many people couldn't deal with Lu Yuan alone. Yes, what Davis said makes sense. The soul ancestor who was sent flying by Lu Yuan's spear stood up. Just now, he was only concerned about the treasures, but when he came face to face with Lu Yuan, he didn't even have time to release his martial soul before being hit by Lu Yuan's spear. It could be said that he was somewhat unlucky. However, a soul ancestor was still a soul ancestor. Although he spat out some blood after being hit by the spear, he still had the strength to fight. It had to be said that a soul ancestor was much more durable than a soul elder. With Davis and this soul ancestor taking the lead, the rest of the people basically agreed with the two's idea. Even the other soul ancestor couldn't help but nod. Looking at the united crowd, Lu Yuan's mouth curled into a disdainful smile. He took another step forward, and the world-shaking spear in his hand blossomed with a golden light. Come! The battle was about to begin. In an instant, dozens of soul rings outside the Temple of Life shone at the same time. Lu Yuan looked at the people rushing over and shouted. 2 soul rings, 1 yellow and 1 purple, rose from his body. The golden dragon's bloodline also began to quickly circulate, and the power of his blood chi burst forth. The golden dragon's might swept through the entire place. All the beast martial souls were suppressed. A soul grandmaster? Seeing Lu Yuan's soul rings, everyone present was stunned. The person who sent a soul ancestor flying with a spear and sent a soul elder flying was actually a soul grandmaster. Could they believe it? However, the aura emitted from Lu Yuan's body made them tremble. Was this the aura of a soul grandmaster? Everyone, don't be careless. Pay attention to his second soul ring. Davis said, his second soul ring is 1,000 year. Everyone present sucked in a breath of cold air. They had never heard of or seen such a combination of soul rings. No wonder a soul grandmaster could be so strong. It turned out to be a 1,000-year second soul ring. 1,000-year second soul ring. Davis's eyes were filled with undisguised killing intent. Since they were already on bad terms, then the stronger Lu Yuan's talent was, the more he wanted to kill him. "Go!" Davis shouted, and everyone rushed towards Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan wasn't afraid at all. Carrying the world-shaking spear, he rushed into the crowd. After sending a control-type soul elder flying with a spear, Lu Yuan's figure wandered between the crowd. With Lu Yuan's speed and his study of the Phoenix Dance's 6 illusions, these low-level soul elders were basically decorations. They simply couldn't keep up with his speed. "Everyone, come out!" Brandishing his spear, Lu Yuan used the vast sea spear art. Relying on the might of his spear, as long as a low-level soul elder was hit, they would be forced to retreat. White Tiger's fierce light wave. A white ball of light attacked. Lu Yuan's spear swung and instantly annihilated it. Thorny with strangulation. Green thorny branches rose from Lu Yuan's side. Looking at their appearance, they seemed to want to control Lu Yuan. The one who used this move was the soul ancestor who was sent flying by Lu Yuan. He was a rank 43 control-type soul ancestor. However, if a control-type met Lu Yuan, then what would the result be? A control-type soul master? The corner of Lu Yuan's mouth curled into a disdainful smile. Even with his eyes closed, he could still use his spiritual power to sense every soul master. Second soul skill, Golden Dragon War Body. Lu Yuan's body suddenly emitted a resplendent golden light. Within the range of this golden light, all of the thorny trees and thorns were instantly shattered into pieces. How is this possible? The soul ancestor turned pale with fright. Not only was his soul skill completely ineffective, even his martial soul was damaged. Even he himself was injured. Lu Yuan didn't pay attention to the soul ancestor. Instead, he turned around and eliminated another low-level soul elder with a single move. Basically, a low-level soul elder was something Lu Yuan could deal with a single spear. Up until now, no less than 4 low-level soul elders have been sent out of the battlefield by Lu Yuan. They basically didn't have the strength to continue fighting. Only 6 high-level soul elders, Davis, Zhu Zhuyan, and 2 soul ancestors remained. Everyone, use your true abilities. Don't hold back anymore. Seeing that Lu Yuan wasn't injured despite being besieged by everyone and instead eliminated 4 soul elders, Davis was somewhat anxious. "Zhuyan!" Davis shouted loudly. Next to him, Zhu Zhuyan hugged him tightly. In an instant, black and white colors circulated, and an intense aura engulfed the entire battlefield. Martial Soul Fusion Skill, Netherworld White Tiger. Lu Yuan sighed softly. A perilous wave blasted a high-level soul elder to the point of vomiting blood. Looking at the enormous Netherworld White Tiger that was in the process of forming, a trace of seriousness appeared on his face. Golden Dragon War Armor. Lu Yuan shouted softly. The golden armor instantly covered his entire body. There were faint cloud patterns on the surface of the armor. An intense bloodline aura burst forth. With the Golden Dragon bloodline and the Golden Dragon War armor, Lu Yuan went all out in an instant. Chapter 141. Even Lu Yuan didn't dare to underestimate the Hell White Tiger's famous soul fusion skill. The Golden Dragon's bloodline, his martial soul, and his Golden Dragon armor were practically the entirety of Lu Yuan's strength. The Hell White Tiger's aura was so strong that the 2 sides couldn't help but stop fighting. Black and white slowly fused together, and then a huge Hell White Tiger over 5 meters long appeared on the field, and a strong pressure enveloped Lu Yuan's body. Lu Yuan snorted. The Golden Dragon's aura soared to the sky to fight against the Hell White Tiger. It had to be said that the Hell White Tiger formed from the fusion of 2 soul exalts had an aura comparable to that of a Soul King. Even Lu Yuan felt an enormous amount of pressure from it. The Hell White Tiger's enormous claws swiped towards Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan snorted coldly. All of his strength burst forth at the same time. He even used the strongest move of the oceanic spear art, the oceanic universe. He didn't have the slightest intention of dodging. Retreat? That's not what a golden dragon should do. Bang! The cataclysm collided with the hell white tiger's claws. Lu Yuan suffered a heavy blow and slid back over 10 steps before he could stabilize himself. A trace of blood leaked from the corner of his mouth. But the hell white tiger wasn't much better off. Its enormous body was knocked to the side by Lu Yuan's attack. A giant tiger claw immediately trampled an unlucky Soul Exalt, causing him to be heavily injured. Davis, what are you doing? The hell white tiger's actions caused a Soul Exalt to roar in anger. In response to the Soul Exalt's question, the hell white tiger's giant tiger claw answered him. The hell white tiger's attack was close to that of a Soul King. How could a Soul Exalt block it? The Soul Exalt was sent flying with blood spurting from his mouth. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. Hiss! Seeing Davis attack one of his own, the Soul Exalts present were all stunned. Then, they all became agitated. Davis, what are you doing? But instead of Davis's explanation, they were faced with the hell white tiger's giant tiger claw. Bang! 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 One by one, the Soul Exalts were sent flying into the air by the hell white tiger's attacks. None of them were able to defend themselves. Have you finally revealed your true colors? Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Lu Yuan held the slightly deformed Shocking World Spear in his hand. In the end, he had suffered a small loss in the clash with the hell white tiger. Although he was strong, he wasn't strong enough to defeat a Soul King. However, the Netherworld White Tiger's attack power was comparable to a Soul King's. It was precisely because he saw Lu Yuan at a disadvantage that Davis became arrogant. He turned his head and attacked his former teammates without hesitation. He really had the demeanor of an ambitious and ruthless person. In Davis's opinion, since even he was no match for him, his Netherworld White Tiger should be able to sweep through the entire field and monopolize the final treasure. The hell white tiger heavily injured the control-type Soul Ancestor with a single swipe of its paw. Turning around, it stared at Lu Yuan with its enormous eyes as it walked towards Lu Yuan. Of the people present, only Lu Yuan, the hell white tiger, and the Soul Ancestor who had been hiding off to the side without making a move. This Soul Ancestor was much stronger than the control-type Soul Ancestor. That was Lu Yuan's first impression of him. You're still not going to make a move? Lu Yuan looked at the Soul Ancestor with an inexplicable look in his eyes. What? Do you want to join forces with me? The Soul Ancestor smiled with a wicked smile. I don't have the habit of joining forces with others. Lu Yuan said. Is that so? That's too bad. Then I'll have to join forces with Davis. It doesn't matter. What's your name? Lu Yuan asked. Me? You can call me Soul Devil Feather. Soul Devil Feather. Lu Yuan looked at the Soul Ancestor who called himself Soul Devil Feather and laughed. Come at me together. Then I'm coming. Soul Devil Feather's body lit up with a scarlet mist, and a blood-black longsword appeared in his hand. A yellow, purple, and purple soul ring shone. Evil Soul Master? Lu Yuan's expression turned serious. Evil Soul Masters were not simple. As for why Lu Yuan thought Soul Devil Feather was an evil Soul Master, it was because the aura on his body was almost exactly the same as Tang Qi, whom Lu Yuan had met 3 years ago. All of you deserve to die, Lu Yuan softly muttered. He would never forget how cruel these evil Soul Masters were. The tragic state of Fengming Village was still vivid in his mind. Holding the world-shaking spear, Lu Yuan instantly entered the battlefield. Come at me. Davis's voice came from the hell white tiger's huge body. He didn't care if he was an evil Soul Master or not. Right now, he only wanted to blow Lu Yuan's head off. As for this Soul Devil Feather, after he blew Lu Yuan's head off, he would turn around and kill him. The treasures in the ruins could only belong to him. Davis. Huh. Soul Devil Feather chuckled, holding the blood-red sword in his hand, and joined the battle. Bang! Dust flew into the air as the 2 men and 1 tiger fought fiercely. Soon, a few minutes had passed. Ha! The Hell White Tiger's huge tiger claw slapped down, and Lu Yuan's body was sent flying. He spat out a mouthful of golden red blood in the air. Half kneeling on the ground and holding the deformed world-shaking spear in his hand, Lu Yuan's expression was already serious. A Hell White Tiger with the strength of a Soul King and a Soul Ancestor who was almost a rank 48 Evil Soul Master. Even Lu Yuan was no match for them. Feeling a trace of pain from his waist, Lu Yuan clenched his teeth. This was left behind by Soul Devil Feather. Soul Devil Feather's attack was very strange. Coupled with his soul power that was almost 20 ranks higher than Lu Yuan's, it actually broke through the defense of his armor and left a slender wound on his waist. Blood seeped out from his waist and dyed his white robe red. To Lu Yuan, this Soul Devil Feather was even more troublesome than the Hell White Tiger formed by Davis and Zhu Juyan, as expected of those strange, evil soul masters. But feeling that something seemed to have been completed, the corner of Lu Yuan's mouth revealed a trace of a smile. Die! The Hell White Tiger's huge claw slapped towards Lu Yuan. Standing to the side, Soul Devil Feather didn't make a move because he knew that his attack just now had caused serious injuries to Lu Yuan. The current Lu Yuan couldn't resist the Hell White Tiger's attack at all. Facing the huge tiger claw that was slapping towards him, Lu Yuan stood up and still looked as calm as ever. Have you seen the color of primal chaos? Looking at Lu Yuan's indifferent appearance, Soul Devil Feather's heart actually surged with a bad premonition. What? As his voice fell, Lu Yuan's eyes that had been slightly closed since the beginning of the battle suddenly opened. In an instant, the air of primal chaos surged. Polychoria, light of primal chaos. Lu Yuan's eyes suddenly opened, as if the primal chaos had been reset. In an instant, the sky collapsed and the earth caved in. Two blurry white rays of light burst out from Lu Yuan's eyes. The white light engulfed the entire area, and in an instant, everything in front of Lu Yuan disappeared like smoke. The huge Hell White Tiger was like a piece of paper, instantly turning into green light spots that filled the sky and disappeared. Soul Devil Feather's body disappeared without a trace, as if it had never existed. The young soul masters lying on the ground also mysteriously disappeared without a trace. Chapter 142. In an instant, only Lu Yuan was left in front of the Temple of Life. The light in Lu Yuan's eyes was restrained. If one looked carefully, they would discover that Lu Yuan's eyes were very different from before. There were actually two pupils overlapping in Lu Yuan's eyes. This was the legendary Polychoria, and Polychoria was the reward for this second check-in. Lu Yuan's Polychoria was not like Dai Mubai's Evil Eye, which was just a decoration. It was the genuine Polychoria, which only Polychoria users who were born saints could possess. It came from a resplendent large world, which was a huge world that far surpassed the Douluo world by who knew how many levels. And even in that world, Polychoria had quite a bit of fame. The power of Polychoria was no small matter. With just a simple sweep of the eye technique, it instantly turned everyone into ashes. Lu Yuan kept his eyes closed just now because the power of the system was transforming Lu Yuan's eyes. And until just now, Lu Yuan had completely merged with Polychoria. The current Lu Yuan could also be called a Polychoria user. The power of Polychoria could be said to be limitless, enough for Lu Yuan to continuously explore. Even if he became a god, Polychoria could still provide unimaginable help to Lu Yuan. And how much power he could unleash from Polychoria still depended on Lu Yuan's own ability. As expected, as long as it was a check-in mission, the reward would not be bad. The first reward was a one-of-a-kind killing martial soul, the god-killing spear. Although the killing aura was too strong and could not be used, and it would occasionally affect Lu Yuan's personality. When Lu Yuan could control the god-killing spear, this martial soul would display unimaginable power. This power was definitely more terrifying than Polychoria today. That was once the most ominous weapon in the world. Although it was only a martial soul now, it definitely could not be underestimated. Although it could not be said to be able to kill a saint like the original god-killing spear. As long as Lu Yuan's cultivation was enough, killing a few gods would still be easy. As the saying went, those who had not reached the god rank could not kill god rank powerhouses. It might be effective against others, but it had no effect on the god-killing spear. This was because it was an existence that transcended the rules of the Douluo world. Today's polychoria was just as precious, much more precious than any soul ring or soul bone. After obtaining the dual pupils, Lu Yuan's spiritual sea had undergone an earth-shattering transformation. It had expanded several times, and his spiritual power had also skyrocketed. At the very least, he was a soul emperor. He was already close to becoming a soul sage. In this way, the faintly discernible influence brought about by the god-slaying spear had caused Lu Yuan's personality to become a little extreme. Under the effects of the polychoria, this trace of extreme had already quietly faded away. Furthermore, this was only the most basic usage of the polychoria. Lu Yuan did not even understand the basic abilities of the polychoria. As Lu Yuan's usage of the polychoria deepened, the influence of the god-slaying spear would become weaker and weaker. In the end, it would be completely controlled by Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan raised his hand and rubbed his forehead. The power of the polychoria was indeed great, but the consumption of spiritual power was not small either. It was just a ray of light, but Lu Yuan felt a slight dizziness in his head. He guessed that he could at most use this attack 3 times in a row before completely fainting. In the end, he was still not strong enough. He had a mountain of treasures, but he was powerless to use it. Lu Yuan secretly clenched his fists. The polychoria was still the best trump card. There was no need to reveal it normally. However, he had to work hard in his cultivation and strive to use the polychoria freely as soon as possible. He even wanted to completely control the god-slaying spear. Lu Yuan's polychoria blinked, and a trace of brilliance appeared in his eyes. He turned a corner not far away and said, "Brother Fu, since you're here, why don't you show yourself?" Ta-ta-ta. The sound of footsteps rang out, and a white-clothed figure walked out. It was Fu Qinsheng, who had interacted with Lu Yuan before. In fact, Fu Qinsheng had just arrived. The moment he arrived, he saw Lu Yuan completely annihilate the netherworld white tiger, an advanced soul ancestor close to a soul king. He was immediately shocked on the spot. And that wasn't all. Wherever the light swept past, all of the soul cultivators were turned to ash without leaving a trace behind. This caused a chill to surge up from the bottom of Fu Qinsheng's heart. Just what kind of attack was that? But before he could react, he heard Lu Yuan's voice. He knew that he had been discovered, so he could only walk out. After seeing the power of Lu Yuan's polychoria, Fu Qinsheng was now full of admiration for Lu Yuan. Even a soul king wouldn't be able to use such a terrifying attack. As for whether a soul emperor could do it or not, Fu Qinsheng didn't dare to be certain, but he was sure that it wasn't as terrifying as it was now. It was actually turned to ashes. In fact, Fu Qinsheng had misunderstood. Because the polychoria had just fused with the polychoria, it contained the true power of the polychoria, so it was unstoppable. But now that the divine power was restrained, even if Lu Yuan used it again, it wouldn't be as powerful as before. Unless Lu Yuan could use the polychoria to a certain extent, then he would be able to reproduce the divine power from before. But even if it wasn't as powerful as before, Lu Yuan's polychoria wasn't something that just anyone could resist. At the very least, soul kings wouldn't be able to resist it. Brother Fu, long time no see. Lu Yuan smiled and spoke with a gentle tone. Hearing this, Fu Qinsheng let out a sigh of relief. It seemed that Lu Yuan's attitude was still as gentle as before. He shouldn't have any ill intentions towards him. There was no other way. Lu Yuan's battle results were too frightening, and Fu Qinsheng still had lingering fears. Brother Lu, long time no see. I've just arrived today, and I've already seen Brother Lu's divine power. It's truly a peerless style. Fu Qinsheng said. Huh. Lu Yuan chuckled and said, Brother Fu overpraises me. How about you come with me to the temple? Haha, there's no need for that. I think Brother Lu still has some matters to attend to. I'll take my leave first. Fu Qinsheng didn't want to enter the temple. The reason why those people died without a burial ground was because they wanted to enter the temple. He didn't want to court death. There must be something in the temple that Lu Yuan didn't want others to know. The more people knew, the more dangerous it would be. Fu Qinsheng didn't want to take the risk. And with Lu Yuan here, even if there were treasures in the temple, it had nothing to do with anyone else. Who could snatch things from this guy's hands? Fu Qinsheng was a person who knew when to advance and retreat. Treasures were good, but his life was more important. Looking at Fu Qinsheng's appearance, Lu Yuan was stunned. Was he that scary? He was acting like a homicidal maniac. Those people wouldn't have died. Oh, maybe he doesn't know. After all, among those who entered the ruins, other than Lu Yuan, who knew that they wouldn't die in the ruins and could revive themselves, it was very rare. Fu Qinsheng probably didn't know. But since Fu Qinsheng was so determined to leave, he couldn't stop him. Since Brother Fu has made up his mind, I won't stop you. I hope we'll meet again in the future. Then I'll take my leave. Fu Qinsheng cupped his fists and turned to leave. Chapter 143. Brother Fu, please wait. Lu Yuan suddenly said while looking at Fu Qinsheng in front of him. Hearing this, Fu Qinsheng's footsteps paused. He was secretly shocked. Is he going to attack me? May I ask, Brother Fu, did you see anyone else coming here? Lu Yuan asked. Just now, Lu Yuan had only dealt with the first batch of people. They were strong, so they arrived first. However, there might be some people who came later and arrived later. Since he had already swept them, Lu Yuan decided to send them all out of the ruins so that they wouldn't disturb him and his senior sisters. This wasn't too difficult for Lu Yuan, who had already dealt with Davis and the others. Hearing this, Fu Qinsheng's mouth twitched. As expected, this fiend. However, those people had nothing to do with him, and Fu Qinsheng wasn't in the mood to keep their secrets. He immediately told him what he saw. Hearing this, Lu Yuan's mouth curled up. His eyes flickered. Half an hour later, calmly retracting his left hand, Lu Yuan gently exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. In front of Lu Yuan, one of the soul exalts that had been struck by the Atlas Palm's soul bone skill, Atlas Pinnacle, had turned into a cloud of green light and disappeared. He shook his numb palms. Even though he had been through so many battles, his palms were still numb. If he didn't use a spear and use his hands, his body would be affected. After all, the world-shaking spear was already deformed. This weapon was originally quite good, but now it couldn't keep up with the trend. In the battle between Lu Yuan, the Netherworld White Tiger, and the Soul Devil Feather, it was completely scrapped. A mere weapon made of fine iron couldn't keep up with such an intense battle. Furthermore, Tang San, who made this spear, was still young, and his skills were limited. It was fine for a low-grade spear, but for a high-grade one, it paled in comparison. It seemed that he had to make a new spear when he returned this time. However, it was good that it was scrapped. After all, this spear was made by Tang San. If he used this spear against Tang San in the future, it would feel weird, even though he paid for this spear. However, there would always be a weird feeling. With the resources of the Martial Soul Palace, Lu Yuan could create a spear that was absolutely suitable for him. However, it would be great if he could obtain the Golden Dragon Spear. That would be a perfect match for the Golden Dragon Spear. However, where was he supposed to find the Golden Dragon Spear? Great Stardew Forest? Stop joking around. With Dtion around, who would dare to go to the core region? Even though they were still hibernating, there was no way they could avoid them if they wanted to retrieve the Golden Dragon Spear. With Dtion's cultivation, who on the Douluo continent could match up to him? Sendoryu? I'm afraid that's impossible. As such, he could only dream about obtaining the Golden Dragon Spear. However, once he became stronger and obtained the God-slaying spear, he would still be able to slaughter his enemies. Then, it wouldn't matter whether he had the Golden Dragon Spear or not. Lu Yuan comforted himself in his heart. All right, this is called sour grapes when you can't eat them. Furthermore, There was still a long way to go before he could use the god-slaying spear without any restraint, even if he obtained his polychoria. Lu Yuan reckoned that he had wiped out most of the soul masters who had come to train, so he turned around and returned to the temple. Hulina and Zhu Zhuqing had both absorbed the life spirit crystals. He didn't know how much progress they would make. Furthermore, he still had to heal his injuries. As he touched the thin wound on his body, Lu Yuan narrowed his eyes. That soul devil feather wasn't simple. He had a premonition that he might encounter him again in the future. Evil soul masters were really detestable. Furthermore, their methods were very strange. They were really difficult to deal with. As he thought about this, Lu Yuan stepped into the temple. Inside the temple, Hulina and Zhu Zhuqing's bodies were emitting an emerald green light. That was the power of the life spirit crystal tempering and transforming their bodies. Once it was completed, their aptitude would be greatly improved. Although their soul power might not increase greatly, the life spirit crystal wasn't meant to increase their soul power. It was more for tempering their foundation and increasing their aptitude. Furthermore, the remaining life power that hadn't been absorbed was enough for them to cultivate all the way to the titled Douluo realm if there were no accidents. This was because it meant that they wouldn't face too many obstacles before they reached the titled Douluo realm. They could continue to cultivate until they broke through the titled Douluo realm. This was a little terrifying. Therefore, the life goddess's inheritance was really rich. The life goddess was indeed very generous. This life spirit crystal could even have a huge effect on the injuries of gods. However, the most precious thing was still the clear air god seed in his body. This thing was truly priceless. I wouldn't exchange it even if you gave me the position of God King. Seeing that the two of them still needed some time, Lu Yuan found a place not far away from them and sat down cross-legged, preparing to heal his injuries. Superficial wounds were fine, but there was a residual strange energy in the wound that kept invading his body and preventing his injuries from recovering. This energy was very dark and had a kind of evil smell. If not for Lu Yuan's strong physique, this wound would have caused a lot of trouble for Lu Yuan. At the very least, it would have been a serious injury. Lu Yuan circulated the clear air scripture. The clear air scripture suppressed the turbidity and had a miraculous effect on expelling this dark energy. The true chi of the clear air scripture circulated in his body, and traces of pure soul power began to gather at the wound. The originally strange and difficult soul power was quickly defeated by the impact of the clear air scripture. Lu Yuan controlled the soul power formed by the clear air scripture and enveloped all the strange energy. Then he pressed it toward a certain point on the wound with all his strength. Chi, the strange energy was directly expelled from Lu Yuan's body by the clear air scripture, and a small ball of black blood appeared at the wound. This was the blood that contained the strange, dark energy. When it fell to the ground, it made a sizzling sound. Once the strange, dark energy was expelled from his body, Lu Yuan's complexion looked much better. He took off the mask on his face. Now that there was only him, Hulina, and Zhu Zhuqing, there was no need to wear a mask. Coincidentally, just as Lu Yuan finished healing his injuries, Hulina and Zhu Zhuqing also finished absorbing the life spirit crystals. The remaining energy was hidden in their bodies, changing their physiques little by little. Hulina was the first to open her eyes. A bright light flashed, and a large snow-white fox appeared behind her. Hulina's body also grew a snow-white foxtail. However, it did not stop there. A white light flashed, and Hulina's tails began to grow from behind her, instantly filling the surrounding 2 meters of space. 6-tailed, 7-tailed, 8-tailed, 9-tailed. This is the 9-tailed celestial fox. Lu Yuan's eyes widened. He originally thought that Hulina's martial soul would have a breakthrough after absorbing the life spirit crystals. Lu Yuan originally thought that it would be a 3-tailed demon fox or a 6-tailed spirit fox, but he did not expect it to be the strongest among the Fox clan soul beasts, the 9-tailed celestial fox. Chapter 144. One had to know that Hulina's original demon fox martial soul was already a top-notch martial soul, and the heavenly fox was one of the top-notch martial souls. Heavenly foxes and demon foxes were the same. They were judged by the number of tails they had. Heavenly foxes with the same number of tails were stronger than demon foxes, but not by much. Heavenly foxes were undoubtedly top-notch martial souls, and demon foxes were also top-notch martial souls. Hulina's original martial soul was demon fox, and it was good at bewitchment. Heavenly foxes were different. Although their bewitchment techniques were not as good as demon foxes, their physical attack power was still better. Whether it was heavenly foxes or demon foxes, they were divided into normal, three-tailed, six-tailed, and nine-tailed. Hulina's original demon fox martial soul was actually different from an ordinary demon fox martial soul. There were some slight variations. So, in terms of level, it was actually not much weaker than an ordinary three-tailed demon fox. This was why her talent was so strong. One had to know that the strength of a three-tailed demon fox's martial soul was comparable to the blue lightning tyrant dragon. Above the three-tailed demon fox, it was not called demon fox, but six-tailed spirit fox. Of course, six-tailed heavenly foxes were still called six-tailed heavenly foxes, and they were slightly stronger than six-tailed spirit foxes. This was the racial advantage of heavenly foxes. But at the level of nine-tailed, it was the highest level of the fox race. When one reached nine-tailed, regardless of whether they were heavenly foxes or demon foxes, they were all called nine-tailed heavenly foxes. Nine-tailed heavenly foxes had unparalleled bewitchment abilities, and their physical strength was not inferior to any top-notch spirit beasts. It was worthy of being called a superb martial soul. Once, the first-generation nine-tailed heavenly foxes were also gods of the god realm, but they fell in the war between humans and spirit beasts. However, the nine-tailed heavenly fox's illustrious name was still well known among spirit beasts. Lu Yuan originally thought that Hulina's martial soul would definitely evolve after absorbing the life spirit crystal, but at most, it would be a six-tailed spirit fox. He did not expect it to be the legendary nine-tailed heavenly fox. This was a genuine, superb martial soul. Even if it was not as good as his golden dragon martial soul, it was still a few levels higher than Clear Sky Hammer. Even Little Snow's six-winged seraph was only slightly inferior. It could be said that Hulina's future was truly limitless. He really had the potential to become a god. It seemed that he had underestimated the power of the life crystal. Hulina's beautiful eyes widened slightly. Looking at her current appearance and her tail floating in the air, there was a trace of surprise on her charming face. Lu Yuan smiled and took off Hulina's mask. Looking at Hulina's beautiful face, which seemed to be more beautiful than before, he smiled and said, "Senior sister, how do you feel?" Hulina blinked and said, "It feels great. I feel like my entire body has been refined, as if I have an endless amount of energy. Furthermore, my soul force has reached rank 40. Oh, 2 levels up?" Lu Yuan nodded. Although the main purpose of a life crystal was to refine one's physique and martial soul, as well as raise one's life level, the energy it contained was enough to raise Hulina's level. It was normal for her to raise 2 levels. Furthermore, Hulina was only 14 years old. A soul ancestor at 14 years old, her talent could be considered peerless. Raising your level isn't much. Your martial soul's evolution is the greatest gain. Senior sister, have you heard of the nine-tailed celestial fox? Hulina nodded. Her martial soul was a fox demon, so she had some understanding of the legends of the nine-tailed celestial fox. Senior sister, your martial soul is still a bit lacking compared to my golden dragon, but it could be considered to be of the same level. Lu Yuan smiled. The nine-tailed celestial fox and the golden dragon were both superb martial souls. Although the golden dragon was of a higher grade, strictly speaking, they were still of the same level. Hearing this, Hulina smiled sweetly. Her martial soul had evolved, so her cultivation speed would be faster in the future. In the future, she would be able to help her junior brother even more. This was what Hulina cared about the most. Lu Yuan lightly scratched the tip of Hulina's nose, then turned his gaze to Zhu Zhuqing. His senior sister had undergone such a great evolution, so he wondered how much benefit Zhu Zhuqing would receive. At this moment, Zhu Zhuqing opened her black eyes as well. Meow! A cat's cry resounded throughout the entire hall. Zhu Zhuqing's ears perked up and turned into a pair of cat ears. Behind her body, a slender cat tail swayed freely. Behind her, a huge shadow of a civet appeared. This shadow was a pitch-black cat, but the strange thing was that there was a tuft of white fur on its forehead. Its eyes weren't the usual dark green of a cat's martial soul. Instead, they were a bright and clear blue. The entire martial soul exuded a powerful aura that wasn't the slightest bit inferior to Hulina's nine-tailed celestial fox. What kind of martial soul is this? Hulina's eyes widened. She had never seen a martial soul like this before. Zhu Zhuqing was also curiously sizing herself up. She looked at Lu Yuan with a pair of doubtful eyes. Lu Yuan sighed softly and said, "If I'm not wrong, this should be the most powerful martial soul among the cat-type martial souls, the 9 Lives Lynx." 9 Lives Lynx? Hulina shook her head. She had never heard of this martial soul before. Even Zhu Zhuqing's eyes were filled with confusion. 9 Lives Lynx. What is this? Lu Yuan laughed softly and said, "The Netherworld Civet's bloodline originated from the 9 Lives Lynx. In other words, almost all cat-type soul beasts share the same ancestor. It's also the highest level of evolution that all cat-type soul beasts on the Douluo continent can achieve. Just like how the 9-tailed celestial fox is the ruler of the fox clan, the 9 Lives Lynx is the ruler of the cat clan. I have to say that both of you are very powerful. Both of you have evolved to superb martial souls." Lu Yuan looked at the two of them, and his heart was filled with astonishment. A piece of life spirit crystal was able to elevate both of their martial souls to superb martial souls. This seemed to be quite impressive. Thinking of the life spiritual crystal he had left, he wondered if he should use it for himself. Or should he leave it for Xiao Shui? Or should he? Lu Yuan thought about it and decided to ask his system. For some reason, he felt that his system was a little too talkative today. It should answer his question. "You'd better leave this life spirit crystal behind." The system's cold voice sounded. "Why? Can't I use it myself or give it to Xiao Shui?" Lu Yuan asked in return. The host's Golden Dragon martial soul has already reached an extreme. It will become the Golden Dragon King if it evolves again. This martial soul is comparable to a godly king. The life spirit crystal has no effect on it. What if I leave it for Xiao Shui? Lu Yuan asked again. The result will be the same. The 6-winged seraph is already a god-tier martial soul. The life spirit crystal can't elevate it to the godly king level. Hearing this, Lu Yuan frowned. Then what's the use of this life spirit crystal? Lu Yuan didn't need it for purely tempering his body and elevating his level of life for the time being. This was because he hadn't even fully explored his golden dragon bloodline. There's a karma that the host needs to settle. This life spirit crystal will be very useful when the time comes. Chapter 145. Karma. Upon hearing that, Lu Yuan frowned. How could he have an unsettled karma? Who did he owe karma to? Master? I don't think so. Although he had studied under the master for 3 years, he didn't take the master as his teacher. Most of the time, he was self-taught. The master only gave him a few limited pointers. The master himself was eating and drinking in Nodding Academy, spending the fellows' money. The fellows were his father, so they were no different from each other. The master spent the fellows' money to dawdle in Nodding Academy and occasionally gave Lu Yuan pointers. This was like a modern-day parent hiring a tutor to teach their child to read. It was more of a transaction. No one owed anyone anything. There was no mention of karma. The system also said that he owed someone karma and needed to settle it. It also pointed out that he needed life crystals. This made Lu Yuan a little confused. This feeling of owing someone something out of nowhere and not knowing who the creditor was really a little uncomfortable. System? Tell me, Who do I owe karma to? I knew it. Lu Yuan cursed. Sure enough, when it came to serious matters, the system would shut down. It just kept him hanging and didn't say anything. This damn character. He was speechless. Lu Yuan collected his thoughts and turned his gaze to Hulina and Zhu Zhuqing. Zhuqing, how many ranks has your soul power increased? Hulina had increased from rank 38 to rank 40. Zhu Zhuqing must have increased even more. After all, a soul elder needed much more soul power to increase by 1 rank than a soul grandmaster. Zhu Zhuqing closed her eyes and carefully sensed it. She said, "It's about 4 ranks. I'm now rank 27. Rank 27, almost catching up to me." Lu Yuan muttered to himself. Was his strength increasing a little too slowly? However, he was already ranked 29 before he was 10 years old. This speed wasn't considered slow. Then why did many readers say that the protagonist's strength increased slowly? Cough, cough. Something seemed to have messed up. But Zhuqing is now rank 27. This is already catching up to her soul power when she was 12 years old in the original work. Moreover, the 9 Lives Lynx is a genuine, superb, martial soul. In the original work, Zhuqing inherited the deity position of the god of speed, a second-grade god. She might have a chance to reach the first-grade deity position in this life. After all, a second-grade god is still a little trash. Lu Yuan's thoughts. Among his women now, Qianrenxue was the chosen one by the angel god. She was destined to become the 6-winged angel god. She was one of the 36 over-gods in the celestial realm. She was a true first-tier god. Therefore, Lu Yuan was not worried about Qianrenxue. Hulina was now 14 years old, and she was already a soul ancestor. Moreover, her martial soul was the superb 9-tailed celestial fox. With such talent, it was enough for her to reach the second-grade deity position. There should be hope for her to reach the first-grade deity position. Even if she couldn't do it, she should be able to consume 1 or 2 immortal herbs from the ice-fire yin-yang well. It was the same for Zhu Zhuqing. With the 9 Lives Lynx and her current soul power and future potential, there should be a high chance of her reaching the first-grade deity position. Even if she couldn't, 1 or 2 immortal herbs from the ice-fire yin-yang well should be enough. In this way, besides his teacher Bibi Dawn, the future Rakshasa god, there were also 3 first-grade gods, Chihiro Snow, Hulina, and Zhu Zhuqing. In addition, he had comprehended the clear air god and mastered the power of rule. Wow! It was a beautiful future just thinking about it. However, it was just a thought. Lu Yuan soon came back to his senses. That's right. Lu Yuan nodded. Junior brother, you should absorb the spiritual life crystal too. I'm sure you'll gain a lot as well. Hulina said. From her point of view, she and Zhu Zhuqing had already achieved so much, so Lu Yuan would definitely benefit even more from it. Lu Yuan shook his head and said, "The spiritual life crystal is not very useful to me. However, I can assimilate that white seed." Hulina nodded. Although she did not know why Lu Yuan did this, she knew that as long as it was something Lu Yuan did, there must be a reason for it. Lu Yuan sat cross-legged while Hulina and Zhu Zhuqing stood beside him. 2 pairs of eyes were looking at Lu Yuan. Lu Yuan took out the white, clear air god seed and secretly connected to the system. Hey, stupid system, time of work. How do I absorb this clear air god seed? Lu Yuan had never used this thing before, so he was not sure how to operate it. Place it on your forehead and circulate the clear air scripture. This clear air god seed will naturally enter your knowledge sea. Knowledge sea. Yes, and when the clear air god's seed enters your knowledge sea, its clear air will also have a suppressive effect on the god-slaying spear. In addition to the power of the polychoria, as long as you don't use the god-slaying spear in the future, it will not affect you at all. Moreover, if the situation is really critical, even if you use it for a short period of time, as long as it is not for a long time and you can retrieve it in time, it will not be too dangerous. Is that so? This is great. Lu Yuan was overjoyed. The god-slaying spear had tortured him for 3 years. Was he finally going to take the crucial step towards controlling it? According to the system's instructions, Lu Yuan placed the clear air god seed on his forehead. The clear air scripture began to circulate automatically. Strangely, the clear air god seed, which was originally motionless, emitted a faint white light after the clear air scripture began to circulate. Then, it disappeared into Lu Yuan's forehead. Knowledge seed. Lu Yuan's knowledge seed had changed greatly now. The area had expanded by at least several times, and it also seemed to be much more stable. The center of the knowledge sea was still firmly controlled by the god-slaying spear. This old man was not ordinary. He was very aloof. As for the golden dragon martial soul, it was dancing at a place slightly further away from the god-slaying spear. At this moment, the clear air god seed also barged in. The moment the clear air god seed entered, it pulled the golden dragon to one side, and then it charged directly in the direction of the god-slaying spear. It looked like it was also a ruthless character. After all, before the life goddess had picked it up, the clear air god seed had always been in the center of the divine realm. Now that it had entered the knowledge sea, it was also habitually occupying the core position. Swoosh! As if provoked by the clear air god seed, the god-slaying spear instantly exploded with boundless power. That kind of overwhelming murderous aura instantly enveloped the clear air god seed. The clear air god seed's movements suddenly paused, and then it stopped in an instant. It did not go to the center anymore, but found a place and took root. This was not following the heart, but a tactical retreat. The moment the clear air god seed stopped, it began to emit a dazzling white light. In an instant, Lu Yuan's knowledge sea, except for the core area where the god-slaying spear was located, was completely covered by the dazzling white light. The clear air scripture in Lu Yuan's body also began to circulate rapidly. As the white light from the clear air scripture merged into Lu Yuan's soul power, there seemed to be something extra. The power did not increase by much, but there seemed to be an additional kind of high and mighty divine aura. Chapter 146. Although Lu Yuan did not know what this holy and supreme aura was, he knew that it was not a bad thing for him. The dazzling white light merged with Lu Yuan's golden clear breath scripture soul power, and the clear breath scripture circulation speed increased significantly. Moreover, an inexplicable aura spread from Lu Yuan's body. This aura was empty, distant, boundless, and encompassed everything. Zhu Zhuqing and Hu Lina were the first to be enveloped by this aura. Both of them trembled at the same time, and then the nine-tailed celestial fox and the nine lives lynx appeared at the same time, almost uncontrollably. They then lowered their bodies toward Lu Yuan. This was not pressure from their bloodline, but the submission of their martial souls from the bottom of their hearts. It was like the reverence of living creatures toward the heavens. This was not fear or pressure, but an instinct that came from the heart of all living creatures. The aura spread through the two of them and slowly spread to other parts of the hall. The heavenly realm. The destruction god looked at Lu Yuan and frowned slightly. The life goddess had an inexplicable smile on her face and said, "Looks like this kid really does have some connection with that seed. He's really starting to refine it." Although Lu Yuan had only refined it briefly, and the clear chi spirit seed had only entered his sea of consciousness, there was still a long way to go before he could completely refine it and control the power of the clear chi spirit seed. But at the very least, he had made some initial contact with it and had some results. It should be known that she had tried many times with the divine power of life, but every time the seed had no effect at all. It's still early. That thing isn't that easy to refine, the destruction god said. However, there was still a hint of doubt in his eyes. He had also refined the seed with his destruction power, but there was still no progress. Even his power of destruction and Greenie's life force had no effect on it. That brat from the lower realms had actually made initial contact with it and began to refine it. That seed actually had a reaction. Could it be that they, grand god kings, were inferior to an ant from the lower realms? The Destruction God King was confused. The Life Goddess smiled and said, "Maybe the heavenly realm will have another godly king-level powerhouse in the future." She could also feel the energy within the seed. It was not any weaker than a divine king. If the brat below was capable enough, he could really become the sixth divine king of the divine realm. If that happened, the divine realm would become lively. Hey, it's not that easy. The Destruction God was not as confident as the Life Goddess. He said, "This kid is more than enough to inherit a godly king's position in the future, but it's not that easy for him to become a godly king." The heavenly realm has been around for countless years, and there were only 5 godly kings have been born. Furthermore, what kind of deity position can be born from a deity seed with no attributes? The god of destruction sneered and shook his head. He was not optimistic about Lu Yuan becoming the deity king. Furthermore, the energy contained within the god seed was only comparable to that of a godly king. Even if that fellow were to control all the power of the god seed in the future and become a godly king, he would only be the weakest existence among the godly kings. Otherwise, the god of destruction would not have been so calm after knowing that the goddess of life had placed the god's seed in the mortal world. But he did not know that the so-called non-elemental power was actually the power of clear air. It did not control the so-called authority of a region, but the power of the laws of the entire world, the entire divine world, and all the planes under its jurisdiction. As for the power that was comparable to a godly king's, it was just a godly object insulting itself. After hearing the Destruction God's words, the Life Goddess nodded, but then she thought of the non-elemental power of the seed and shook her head slightly. The power of the gods in the heavenly realm came from their authority. For example, the sea god controlled the power of the sea, the angel god controlled the power of the sun, and the fire god controlled the power of the fire element. These powers were stronger, so they were all main gods. The weaker ones, such as the forest goddess and the snow goddess, who could only control a part of the power of the wood or water element, were second-tier gods, which was slightly weaker. As for third-tier gods, they were even weaker, so there was no need to mention them. The reason why the 5 great godly kings were high and mighty was because the powers they controlled were extraordinary, such as life, destruction, kindness, evil, order, and massacre. These were all powers with special attributes and were of a higher level, so they were godly kings. The gap between a godly king and a main god was huge. For example, the Azura god and the sea god. Even if the two fought in the sea, which was the sea god's home ground, the sea god was still no match for the Azura god, even if he borrowed the power of the entire sea. And although Lu Yuan's seed had reached the level of a godly king, how powerful could it be without elemental power? It was indeed a pity, but for some reason, when the Life Goddess looked at Lu Yuan below, she felt that this kid would give them a huge surprise in the future. It had to be said that sometimes a woman's intuition was indeed a little scary. The aura in Lu Yuan's body was still spreading, and soon it filled the entire hall. Just as this boundless aura was about to engulf the Life Goddess statue, Lu Yuan, who had been sitting cross-legged all this time, suddenly opened his eyes. The moment Lu Yuan opened his eyes, all the aura was instantly retracted, and then all of it sank into Lu Yuan's body. Lu Yuan opened his eyes, and a white light flashed across his double pupils. Seeing that Lu Yuan had opened his eyes, Hulina and Zhu Zhuqing hurriedly took a step forward. "Junior brother." Lu Yuan had just raised his head, and what entered his eyes was a sea of white, which instantly made his blood boil. Lu Yuan subtly turned his head away and withdrew the divine power of his double pupils. Just now, he had been so focused on refining the divine power that he had forgotten that his double pupils were actually in a state of being exposed due to the divine power stimulation. The eyesight of the double pupils was so powerful that even a person's bones and organs could be seen clearly, let alone a simple layer of clothes. In front of Lu Yuan, it was no different from not wearing anything. Thinking of the scene just now, Even if he had the clear chi scripture to calm his mind and the clear chi divine seed to be neutral and peaceful, he almost turned into a wolf. Senior sister's figure is more perfect and flawless, but Zhu is bigger. Even if he tried hard to suppress his thoughts, Lu Yuan still couldn't help but have some dirty thoughts. After controlling his thoughts, Lu Yuan turned to look at the two of them. "Junior brother, are you okay?" Looking at Lu Yuan, Hulina's eyes were full of concern. "Cough, I'm fine." Lu Yuan's expression was indifferent, as if nothing had happened. It had to be said that when it came to the art of being thick-skinned, his cultivation was even more profound. When he was lying, his expression didn't change at all. Hulina nodded, but Zhu Zhuqing was a little puzzled. She kept feeling that Lu Yuan had done something offensive, but there was no evidence. This once again proved that a woman's intuition was indeed terrifying. Chapter 147. Did you gain anything? Junior brother. Hulina immediately looked at Lu Yuan to see if he had gained anything. To Hulina, Lu Yuan was more important than anything else. Lu Yuan's heart warmed. Senior sister is indeed the most considerate. Sigh. Zhuqing, can't you learn from senior sister? Lu Yuan's gaze turned slightly, only to discover that Zhu Zhuqing was also staring at him, her eyes revealing concern. "All right, I take back my words just now. Zhuqing, you're also very good. It's good to have you guys. I did gain a little." Lu Yuan opened his hands, and a golden clear chi scripture soul power gushed out from them. The clear chi scripture's true chi was originally colorless, but due to the influence of the golden dragon martial soul, it had always been in a golden state. This is... The cold Zhu Zhuqing also looked over and saw that the golden soul power in Lu Yuan's hands didn't seem to have any changes, and a trace of doubt appeared in her eyes. "Junior brother, your soul power doesn't seem to have any changes." Hulina also didn't see any abnormalities and asked doubtfully, "Look carefully, don't you see some white spots of light in this soul power?" Hearing this, the two girls looked carefully. Indeed, there were some inconspicuous white spots of light in between the golden soul power. It was just that the golden light was too bright, so it was somewhat inconspicuous. "This is..." Hulina asked. "It's considered divinity. The white seed just now was actually a divinity seed, and these white spots of light came from the power of the white seed. It also added divinity to my soul power." Divinity? Hulina frowned slightly. It was another name she hadn't heard before. The so-called divinity is the characteristic of a god in the soul power. For example, Xiao Shui's soul power has the divinity of the angel god, so her soul power has a high and mighty divine majesty. Furthermore, the injuries caused by the soul power containing divinity are also relatively difficult to recover from. Lu Yuan said, "No wonder when you were beaten black and blue, your wounds were so difficult to heal. In the end, it was only resolved by teacher." Could it be that teacher? Hulina seemed to have thought of something. Back then, Bibi Don had easily healed all of Lu Yuan's injuries. Now that she thought about it, perhaps it wasn't simply because of his profound soul power. Yes, teacher's soul power also contains divinity. Lu Yuan confirmed Hulina's guess. What other uses does this divinity have? It was Zhu Zhuqing who asked. Only she would ask such a practical question. The effects of this divinity are naturally not small. Although it doesn't directly increase one's attack power, it is also quite wonderful. The first is suppression. It has a huge suppression on soul power without divinity. The second is restraint. Soul power with divinity has an extremely strong restraining effect on some special soul power. For example, Lu Yuan's clear aura divine power. The so-called clear aura revered the clear and suppressed the impure. It had a huge restraining effect on all evil and filth. For example, now that he encountered the soul devil feather again, Lu Yuan's clear aura divine power would give him a huge restraining effect. This was much more powerful than Chihiro Snow's six-winged angel's divine power. Moreover, Lu Yuan's mouth curved into a smile and said, "The existence of divinity will be of great help in transforming soul power into divine power in the future. The process will be much easier." Divine power was naturally not something soul power could compare to. When one's cultivation reached a certain level, they could use divinity to transform a part of their soul power into divine power before they became a god. From there, they could greatly increase their combat power. This was the greatest benefit of divinity. For example, Bibi Dan and Tang San in the original work. Before they became gods, their soul power contained the divine power of the Rakshasa god and the sea god. Their combat power was much stronger than people of the same level. As for others, for example, Sindoryu and Pasizi, as God's envoys, they could also control a part of divine power. Therefore, they were stronger than the limit Douluo in the original work. Of course, they still couldn't compare to Ditian. After all, Ditian had the dragon god's claw, which was personally taught by the dragon god. When Ditian used the dragon god's claw, his strength had already surpassed the limit and reached the demigod realm. In the current Douluo continent, he was basically the top fighting power. Hearing this, Hulina nodded her little head. It was fine as long as there were benefits. The more powerful Lu Yuan was, the happier she was. Lu Yuan withdrew the soul power in his hand. He had actually only refined the clear air seed once, and had only obtained some superficial benefits. If he wanted to completely control it, it would be a huge project. However, this clear air seed had calmed his temperament a lot. Both the golden dragon and the god-slaying spear martial souls were extremely aggressive, especially the god-slaying spear. It had a huge impact on Lu Yuan's temperament. Unknowingly, Lu Yuan's temperament had become a little extreme. He wanted to kill everyone who stood in his way, including the Grandmaster, Tang San, and the rest. But now, his temperament had calmed down a lot, and he wouldn't think of casually killing people. Killing people was just a little too much, but if he could play them in the palm of his hand, it would be more interesting. I like it when you're unhappy with me, but you can't do anything about it, because that makes me very happy. Looking at Hulina and Zhu Zhuqing in front of him, Lu Yuan smiled and said, "And the benefits aren't limited to that. Look at my eyes." Eyes? Hulina stared at Lu Yuan's eyes carefully and was instantly shocked. "Junior brother, why do you have double pupils in your eyes?" "Of course double pupils are double pupils. Otherwise, why would they be called double pupils?" Lu Yuan laughed. "Double pupils? Could this be a mutation caused by refining that seed?" Hulina asked. Lu Yuan nodded, indicating that Hulina was right. After all, he definitely couldn't reveal the matter of the system to anyone, but he couldn't hide the fact that he had double pupils. After all, it was too obvious. Hulina and Zhu Zhuqing were distracted by something just now, so they didn't discover it. But they would discover it sooner or later. Only this reason could make up a reasonable origin for the double pupils. What's the use of this double pupil? It can't be just a decoration, right? Hulina asked. Of course not. This double pupil can see through all kinds of strange objects, and it also has many eye techniques to uncover them. It can be considered a second martial soul, but it can't add soul rings. Lu Yuan said with a smile. Is that so? That's too bad. Hulina sighed softly. It was a pity that it couldn't add soul rings. Lu Yuan only smiled at Hulina's sigh. Although the double pupil couldn't add soul rings, it was more powerful than any martial soul on the Douluo continent, except for the god-slaying spear. How could a mere martial soul's soul skill compare to its power? Lu Yuan's double pupil's chaotic light had wiped out two existences that were close to the power of a soul king, and there were many soul elders accompanying them. How could this power be ordinary? Just now, you said that this double pupil can see through all kinds of strange objects? Zhu Zhuqing's voice was gentle, but there was a trace of coldness in it. Yes, Lu Yuan nodded. Zhu Zhuqing smiled, and her smile was absolutely beautiful. That's very good. Seeing Zhu Zhuqing smile, Lu Yuan didn't know why, but he suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. Not good, this is bad. Chapter 148. Not good, this is bad. Lu Yuan was alarmed. Zhu Zhuqing must have discovered something. Zhu Zhuqing's white hand climbed onto Lu Yuan's waist. So what did you see just now? She originally felt that Lu Yuan seemed to have done something offensive, but she couldn't say it and didn't have any evidence. But now that Lu Yuan said this, she knew that Lu Yuan must have used his polychoria to see her body. After all, he could see through all kinds of strange things. What was a mere layer of clothes to him? I didn't see anything. Lu Yuan smiled awkwardly and said, "It's just that I didn't have time to withdraw my polychoria's divine power. I saw your cough. It was just a glance, and I immediately moved my eyes away." Hearing this, Hulina, who was standing at the side, instantly blushed. The smile on Zhu Zhuqing's face became even wider. Her white hand suddenly clamped onto a handful of soft flesh on Lu Yuan's waist, and then fiercely twisted. Hiss! Lu Yuan sucked in a breath of cold air. This pain rushed straight to his head. Seeing Lu Yuan's painful appearance, Hulina secretly spat and said, "Serves you right, you pervert." In the ruins, a huge circular door appeared in midair. Almost everyone in the ruins had been swept away by Lu Yuan, and the so-called last round of the examination was already over. Thinking about it, the contents of the examination were really quite special. The first round was the forest, where soul beasts emerged in an endless stream. It not only tested a person's strength, but also their ability to survive and change flexibly. Only those with strength and wisdom could pass the first round of examination. Of course, the first round of examination was also a selection. Basically, those who could pass had some skills. And the second round was the ruins of the palace. The spirit herbs in the herb garden tested one's human nature. If one had a greedy heart, then they would definitely fail. This was the test that Lu Yuan and the others had gone through. As for whether the others were the same, Lu Yuan didn't know. After all, when entering the palace, there was more than one passage to the Temple of Life. If the herb garden targeted greed, then it was possible that the other areas targeted the gamut and anger. After all, the Temple of Life was left behind by the Goddess of Life, and the Goddess of Life was the wife of the God of Destruction. As the God of Destruction was the king of gods, he had 7 original sin gods under his command. It was easy for him to set up some tests to temper people's minds. And the final trial before the Temple of Life was a test of absolute strength. The treasures of heaven and earth belonged to those who were virtuous. What kind of person could be called virtuous? Naturally, that person was the strongest. After all, such a precious treasure left behind by the Goddess of Life couldn't possibly be obtained by a mediocre person. That would be inconsistent with the original intention of the Goddess of Life, leaving behind the ruins. Lu Yuan speculated inwardly, and he more or less guessed the Heavenly Life Goddess's purpose for setting up each level. "Let's go." He smiled at Hulina beside him, and Hulina nodded slightly. Then he looked at Zhu Zhuqing beside him. At this moment, Zhu Zhuqing's pretty face was cold as she looked straight ahead, ignoring Lu Yuan's words. This little wild cat. Lu Yuan sighed inwardly. Hulina was actually a cold person. On the surface, she smiled sweetly, but in fact, she was arrogant to the bone. It was only in front of Lu Yuan, her beloved junior brother, that she would be obedient and rarely throw a tantrum. She had always been very obedient. And Zhu Zhuqing? She looked cold and aloof on the outside, but in fact, she was very pure and didn't put on airs. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to blend in so easily in the original work. It was just that she was thin-skinned, shy, and a little arrogant at the same time. If Hulina hadn't been there just now, even if Lu Yuan had seen it, she wouldn't have acted like that. At most, she would have been a little shy. But Hulina was also there, so in order to hide her shyness, she could only pretend to be cold and aloof. Lu Yuan had already figured out this little arrogant temperament very clearly. Therefore, Lu Yuan didn't care about Zhu Zhuqing's cold expression at all. He gently held Zhu Zhuqing's jade-like hand. Her little hand was cold, but it felt good to the touch. Zhu Zhuqing didn't seem to feel Lu Yuan holding her little hand. Her pretty face was still cold as she looked ahead. Sure enough, a proud little wild cat. Lu Yuan laughed in his heart, and his other hand held Hulina's soft hand. A suction force emitted from the circular portal, and the three of them were directly sucked in and then disappeared. Outside Sunyues City, after Lu Yuan and the other two left the ruins, they came to a corner of Sunyues City, but no one noticed them. They also didn't see the figures of the other people who had entered the ruins. Perhaps it was just like when they were teleported into the ruins. This time, the three of them were also teleported out. But the difference was that this time, the three of them were teleported to the same place. After discovering that they were already in Sunyues City, Lu Yuan used the Martial Soul Palace's unique communication method to contact Golden Crocodile. Just like that, the four of them left Sunyues City. Other than the Platinum Bishop of the Star Luo Martial Soul Palace, Osford, who knew about their whereabouts, the people of other forces didn't know about their whereabouts. It had to be said that even in the Xianra Empire, the power of the Martial Soul Palace still couldn't be underestimated. This was a remote place outside Sunyues City. Golden Crocodile and Hulina were waiting in the carriage, while Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing were waiting on the road not far away. Zhuqing, do you really want to go? Come back with me, Lu Yuan said as he gently hugged Zhu Zhuqing. Zhu Zhuqing gently shook her head and said, I want to train on this continent. You've been taking care of me on this trip to the ruins. From the beginning to the end, I didn't help you at all. I want to help you. I don't want to be a burden to you. Zhu Zhuqing's tone was very gentle, but it was very firm. Zhuqing, you've never been a burden to me. Training is not only difficult, but also dangerous. You're a girl. To be honest, I can't rest assured, Lu Yuan said. Hearing this, Zhu Zhuqing revealed a beautiful smile and said, This time, thanks to you, I've obtained the life crystal. My martial soul has also evolved into a superb martial soul, the 9 lives lynx. Coupled with my rank 27 soul power, it's enough to protect myself. Zhuqing, Lu Yuan wanted to say something, but Zhu Zhuqing's slender fingers pressed against his lips. Lu Yuan, it wasn't easy for me to make up my mind. Can you stop trying to persuade me? I'm afraid that I won't be able to resist going back with you. You know that I don't have any resistance to you. Zhu Zhuqing's pair of big black eyes flashed with a deep affection as she gently looked at Lu Yuan. Zhuqing, Lu Yuan sighed softly. It seemed that Zhu Zhuqing had made up her mind. All right, I promise you. Since Zhu Zhuqing really wanted to go out and train, Lu Yuan wasn't willing to stop her. Holding Zhu Zhuqing's hand, Lu Yuan's palm shook and a token appeared in his hand. He then placed it in Zhu Zhuqing's palm. Chapter 149. This is... Zhu Zhuqing looked at the token in her hand, her face full of surprise. This token was the Martial Soul Palace's token, but it was not like the ordinary low-level tokens. This token had 5 pictures on it, and it was second only to the Pope's token. Among the younger generation of the Martial Soul Palace, only Lu Yuan and Hulina had one. As for Chihiro Snow, she naturally had a higher level token. It had to be said that both Lu Yuan and Hulina's status in the Martial Soul Palace was lower than Chihiro Snow's. After all, they were only Bibidon's disciples, not the Holy Son and Holy Maiden. Zhu Zhuqing looked at Lu Yuan in surprise. With her knowledge, she naturally knew what this token meant. You're from the Martial Soul Palace. Zhu Zhuqing could not hide her surprise. Lu Yuan could actually take out a 5th-level token. This meant that Lu Yuan's status in the Martial Soul Palace was not low. Even the Xianra Empire's Platinum Bishop Osfer only had a 5th-level token. Yes, the current Supreme Pontiff is my teacher. Since Zhu Zhuqing was already one of his people, there was no need to keep this a secret from her. He believed that Zhu Zhuqing would definitely not reveal his identity. It's no wonder Lu Yuan was confident that he could withstand the pressure from the Star Luo imperial family. After all, to the Martial Soul Palace, which was a colossus in the world of soul masters, No matter how strong the Xianra Empire was, it could not threaten him. Originally, Zhu Zhuqing was very curious about Lu Yuan's identity. How could he not fear the star Luo imperial family? So he was the disciple of the martial Soul Palace's pope. No wonder he had such confidence. It's a secret. Lu Yuan smiled. Zhu Zhuqing nodded heavily. Since Lu Yuan was not willing to reveal his identity, Zhu Zhuqing would naturally keep it secret for him. No matter what plans Lu Yuan had, Zhu Zhuqing would support him. This was because this was her man, the person she had decided to follow for the rest of her life. I really can't bear to part with you, Zhuqing. Lu Yuan's chin gently pressed against Zhu Zhuqing's forehead, his voice full of reluctance. After the trip to the ruins, he had already fallen in love with this slightly arrogant little wild cat. Yes, it was not love, but love. Lu Yuan, Zhu Zhuqing called out softly. She looked at Lu Yuan with eyes sparkling with affection. Immediately, her pretty face blushed slightly. She seemed to have made up her mind. With a light tap of her toes, she gently leaned towards Lu Yuan's fairy-like face. Seeing this, Lu Yuan lowered his head slightly. What a scandal, what a scandal! Seeing the two's actions, the golden crocodile, who was standing on the carriage, was so angry that his beard trembled. This stinking brat actually dared to do such a thing in broad daylight. He was simply too daring. Where did he place little Snow? It was just a trip to the ruins. How did he manage to hook up with another one? This brat? Is he trying to anger me to death? Seeing Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing's intimate contact, the golden crocodile was anxious. He was anxious for Chihiro Snow. One was Chihiro Snow, whom he had watched grow up. He had long since doted on her, as if she were his own granddaughter, and he cared about her the most. The other had the golden dragon, a top-notch gold-type martial soul. The strength of the martial soul was not inferior to a god-ranked martial soul, the six-winged angel. Furthermore, she was the disciple he had taught wholeheartedly, the future successor of his legacy. They were both peerless talents and peerless beauties. From talent to intelligence to appearance, the two of them were simply a perfect match. Furthermore, the two of them had a favorable impression of each other. To the golden crocodile, the two of them were like a golden couple. As long as the two of them worked together, the future martial Soul Palace would definitely flourish in their hands. They might even unify the entire Douluo continent and let the sacred light of the martial Soul Palace shine over the entire continent. This was the golden crocodile's dream. He also believed that Chihiro Snow and Lu Yuan would definitely be able to achieve it. But now Lu Yuan He actually had another confidant. Then what about Little Snow? If Little Snow and Lu Yuan had a falling out, what would happen to the martial Soul Palace's future? The golden crocodile couldn't help but feel a little anxious. But he couldn't use force either. Looking at Lu Yuan's appearance, if he made a move on Zhu Zhuqing, Lu Yuan would definitely fall out with him. It might even affect his feelings for the martial Soul Palace and Little Snow. The gains wouldn't make up for the losses. It's difficult. The golden crocodile sighed. It was truly difficult for this old man. For the sake of the martial Soul Palace and Little Snow, this old man could be said to have given his all. But he just had to encounter such a difficult problem. Seeing the golden crocodile's anxious expression, the trace of jealousy that had arisen from Lu Yuan and Zhu Zhuqing's intimate contact instantly vanished. It was replaced by a feeling of schadenfreude. Damned stinking old man. This is what you get for trying to break up my junior brother and me. Women all held grudges, not to mention that the golden crocodile wanted to break up her and her most beloved junior brother. To Hulina, this was undoubtedly intolerable. However, the golden crocodile was too strong, and she couldn't do anything to him. In fact, she had always felt a little uncomfortable in her heart. But today, seeing the golden crocodile almost lose his composure, yet unable to do anything, Hulina couldn't help but feel happy. What a good junior brother. However, when she thought of Lu Yuan having a foot in 3 boats, even if Hulina had already accepted her fate, she couldn't help but lightly curse. Stinking junior brother. Of course, she would secretly curse him. When her junior brother was here, She would always be the considerate and obedient senior sister. She couldn't let her junior brother know that she was secretly cursing him. Their lips parted, and Lu Yuan looked at Zhu Zhuqing with a gentle gaze. Zhu Zhuqing's charming face flushed red. This was the first time she had been so bold. Lu Yuan, I don't have anything to give you. I can only give you my first kiss. Zhu Zhuqing's jade-like hands pinched the corner of her clothes. Even though she was extremely embarrassed, she still mustered the courage to say these words. This was because after today, she didn't know when she would be able to see Lu Yuan again. This is the best gift for me. Lu Yuan hugged Zhu Zhuqing tightly in his arms. He was also very reluctant to part with her. Zhuqing, where are you going to train? I don't know. I'll just go with the flow. Lu Yuan's expression turned serious, and he said, in 3 years, Heavendo Empire, Sosno Province's Shrek Academy. I'll wait for you there. Shrek Academy in Sasto City? I'll remember it. Zhu Zhuqing said softly. I have to see you there in 3 years. Otherwise, my little kitty, I'll definitely punish you properly. Lu Yuan threatened her. All right. Zhu Zhuqing nodded her head gently. Use the token in your hand well. If you need it, you can use the power of the Martial Soul Palace. They'll help you when they see the token. Okay. Zhu Zhuqing nodded her head gently. Lu Yuan was silent for a long time as he watched Zhu Zhuqing's graceful figure disappear into the distance. After that, he turned around, and his eyes sparkled. Zhuqing, let's meet again in Shrek. Looking at the golden crocodile and Hulina in front of him, Lu Yuan said softly, let's go back to the Martial Soul Palace. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.